Chapter 2437. Don't open the door yet. I'll go take a look. Linny stood up and strode to the door in front. The bus driver was just about to open the window and ask the two men why they were driving like this, telling them that his bus had just been looted and there was nothing valuable left. But before he could open his mouth, Linny spoke first. The driver hesitated and looked at Boss Spy. After all, he was just a driver for the travel company, and Boss Spy was the teacher of these people. In the end, it was best for Boss Spy to make the decision. Otherwise, if something happened to the students on the bus, the travel company might bear some responsibility. Boss Spy looked at Linny, pondered for a moment, and nodded in agreement. Do as he said. Boss Spy knew that Linny was a cultivator. Although he didn't know how high Linny's combat index was, cultivators were always much stronger than ordinary people. Linny must have said that because he wanted to get rid of the two robbers before they got on the bus. This was also Boss Spy's hope. If these two people got on the bus, the students on the bus would have no money in their pockets. They were not afraid of robbers, but he was afraid that these two people did not get anything valuable and would hurt the students on the bus in anger. Thieves would not leave empty-handed. Boss Spy also understood that these people wasted a lot of effort but got nothing. Naturally, they would not be happy. It was normal for them to hurt two students to vent their anger. Although Linny could easily kill them on the bus, Linny would definitely be restrained, afraid that when he killed one, the other would hurt the other students. So, it would be best if Linny could get off the bus. Oh, okay. The driver nodded. Since Boss Spy had spoken, it was all Boss Spy's business. If anything went wrong, he could get rid of the responsibility. Creak. The electric door of the bus opened, and Linny happened to come to the door of the bus. The two robbers were about to get on the bus. Seeing the door open so cooperatively, they were stunned. Originally, they thought that if the driver was too afraid to open the door, they would break in. This kind of door was easy for the two masters to break, but they didn't expect the door to open by itself. Hello, robber brothers. As soon as Linny opened the door, he greeted the two robbers, one tall and one short. The tall robber and the short robber were both stunned. What was going on with the people in the car? Is there something wrong with him? From the looks of it, it seemed that he was more than welcome to rob it. Otherwise, what was the point of greeting? Excuse me, are you here to rob? Linny continued to ask. We? The two robbers didn't know who Linny was. They'd only seen Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing's picture, and they'd heard from Pan Hu Right that there were only two girls in their class. Linny, on the other hand, had to be the one sitting next to Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing. They just didn't pay attention to him. After all, as long as he revealed his heaven rank power, Linny wouldn't dare to act blindly without thinking. Oh, you can go die now, bye. Linny's words had successfully distracted the two robbers, and when Linny finished speaking, he pushed out his palm and shouted, Frenzy 8 trigrams palm, 6th form. This palm was aimed at the tall robber, the late-phase peak earth class. With a loud bang, the robber was sent flying by Linny's Frenzy 8 trigrams palm. He was like an arrow that had left a bowstring, shooting into a ditch on the side of the highway. He didn't even have time to scream before he stopped moving. Linny's Frenzy 8 trigrams palm's 6th form was equivalent to the 12th form of a normal heaven class skill. The 11th form could cripple Elder Bai, and the 12th form could easily take out an earth class late phase, peak Elder Bai. The short robber was shocked. He didn't expect the person to be a practitioner, and realized that this might be the Linny that Pan Hu Right had mentioned on the phone. He wanted to teach Linny a lesson, but what he didn't expect was that after Linny hit the tall robber, Linny sent another palm towards his chest. Frenzy 8 trigrams palm, 7th form. Linny didn't stop after using the 6th form of the Frenzy 8 trigrams palm. He went straight for the 7th form. This was Linny's strategy. Using the 6th form to trigger the 7th form had a higher chance of success. Pung. The raging fire chi surged out of Linny's palm, concentrating on the chest of the short robber. The chi burst out in an instant, and the short robber screamed in pain, following in the footsteps of the tall robber. The short robber was sent flying by Linny's Frenzy 8 trigrams palm's 7th form. Although he managed to stay on his feet after some distance and didn't fall into the ditch like the tall robber, he still wasn't in good shape. He spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. The 13th form of a heaven-class skill. How is this possible? You're a heaven-class mid-phase?
No.
You're not. After saying that, the short robber spat out another mouthful of blood. It looked like he had suffered a serious internal injury. When Lin Yi saw the short robber's appearance, he immediately relaxed. Success. He actually succeeded. Previously, Lin Yi also tried to use the 7th form of the Frenzy 8 trigrams palm, but every time he used it, there would be some obstacles. But this time, Lin Yi didn't expect that he would succeed in a moment of desperation. Although it was a bit shaky and not very skillful, he still succeeded in the end. Sure enough, in a critical moment, a person's potential was limitless. In the past, there was no pressure. Lin Yi just practiced step by step every day and deduced the martial skill. There was no sense of urgency and he wasn't forced to a dead end, so he didn't succeed. But today, when facing a heaven-class early phase expert, the 7th form was successfully used. But it had to be said that this was a very lucky thing. Lin Yi was really a bit risky. If he didn't succeed, then he would have lost the best time to make a move. And this heaven-class early phase expert, Lin Yi didn't have the confidence to injure him. Although the 6th form of the Frenzy 8 trigrams palm was powerful, it was actually equivalent to the 12th form of an ordinary martial skill. That was the martial skill used by a normal heaven-class early phase or peak heaven-class early phase expert. In front of the short expert, it could only be regarded as evenly matched. If the two of them clashed, it was hard to say whether Lin Yi or the short robber would be injured, so Lin Yi could only choose to take the risk. Chapter 2438. Oh, is that so? Lin Yi looked at Right Coiling Tiger with a faint smile. Who knew he was so weak? Those robbers from before were far weaker than the Sky and Earth-class masters of the Hidden House of You. You? What do you mean? What masters of the Hidden House of You? Right Coiling Tiger looked at Lin Yi's faint smile and asked back like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Nothing, you know it in your heart. Lin Yi said lightly, and walked to the last row. Brother Yu, why are you and Lin Yi talking in riddles? What do you mean? Xiaolong wasn't a practitioner, so he naturally didn't know the strength of the two robbers Lin Yi fought. He wouldn't have guessed their connection with the Hidden House of You, so he asked in confusion. Brother Kong, we've made a mistake. Right Coiling Tiger said with a bitter face. Those two just now were sent by the Hidden House of You. Those robbers before were real robbers. Huh? Xiaolong's eyes widened when he heard Right Coiling Tiger's words. What? The robbers before were real robbers, and this time they were from the Hidden House of You? Xiaolong felt like the world was spinning, and he almost fainted. The lingering fear made him shiver all over. In other words, he had just walked around the gates of hell? Those people weren't from the Hidden House of You at all. Why would they cooperate with his act? He was lucky that he didn't say anything forcefully in the end. Otherwise, he might have been beaten to death. Brother Kong, I'm really sorry. Who knew that things would be so coincidental? Right Coiling Tiger looked at the scared Xiaolong and said with a bitter smile, It's not your fault. Xiaolong listened to Right Coiling Tiger's explanation and his resentment towards him dissipated. It really wasn't Right Coiling Tiger's fault. Who would have thought that he would be so unlucky to meet a group of real robbers? But Xiaolong suddenly thought of an even scarier problem while feeling the lingering fear. He quickly asked, Brother Yu, didn't you say that the people sent by the Hidden House of You were Sky-class masters? How did Lin Yi get rid of them so quickly? He is indeed a heaven stage expert. Right Coiling Tiger sighed. A Sky-class early phase and an Earth-class late phase peak, he said helplessly. Although these two masters were not the direct descendants of the Yu family, they were just hangers-on, just like Yu Dake who participated in the Hidden House Summit. After all, they were still part of the Yu family's power. Now that they were crippled by Lin Yi, Yu Panhu was very unhappy. Even if he was not the master of the Hidden Yu family, he would be one of the elders. He was happy that the Hidden Right family was strong, but he could not be happy that the Hidden Right family was badly damaged by Lin Yi.
What?
A Sky-class early phase and an Earth-class late phase peak? None of them were a match for Lin Yi. Xiaolong's eyes widened. God, what level was Lin Yi at? From what I can see, Lin Yi is only at the peak of mid-earth class. The only reason he was able to win was because of the element of surprise and the subtlety of his martial technique. Right Coiling Tiger observed carefully, however, there is no need to worry. In Boss Bai's class, Lin Yi won't kill us. Don't worry about his training. Xiaolong nodded and relaxed. Right Coiling Tiger was right. Seeing how Lin Yi killed without batting an eye, the two Hidden Yu family masters were either dead or crippled, and Lin Yi didn't hold back at all. But looking at himself and Right Coiling Tiger, although Lin Yi didn't have a good expression, he didn't use force. He used the strength of a practitioner to suppress them. This made him breathe a sigh of relief. This Lin Yi is really strong. Xiaolong sighed. Indeed. Right Coiling Tiger felt that he made a mistake. What did he mean by Lin Yi was afraid in front of a sky-class master? What was there to be afraid of? He attacked directly. This time, the family's loss was huge. They went for wool and came home shorn. The short robber was resting on the side of the highway for a long time. Only then did he catch his breath. Although Lin Yi's palm wasn't enough to kill him, his injuries weren't light. He quickly went to the ditch to check on the taller robber, but what he saw made his heart go cold. The taller robber's sternum had been shattered. His eyes were bulging out, and his mouth was foaming with blood. He was clearly dead. This situation made the short robber doubt Lin Yi's strength again. Was Lin Yi really just an Earth-class mid-phase peak? That palm didn't seem like it. To be able to injure him and kill the taller robber with one palm, how could an Earth-class mid-phase peak do that? Although there were elements of surprise and trickery involved, without that strength, it would be useless no matter how unexpected a sneak attack was. Thinking of this, the short robber's face darkened as he carried the taller robber's corpse to the back seat of the heavy truck. He said to the driver in front, "Drive back to the Hidden Yu family, quick." Yes. The driver was just a normal disciple of the Yu family, Yu-15. He only had Earth-class mid-phase strength. He saw the scene just now, and was quite frightened. If he got out of the truck, he would have become a corpse by now. Phew! The short robber let out a long breath. Looking at the taller robber's corpse beside him, he felt a chill in his heart. If Lin Yi had added another palm, he would have been crippled. If Lin Yi had added another palm, he would have died for sure. Originally, he was very confident in this operation because it was too simple. All he had to do was steal a tablet, cooperate with Xiaolong to show off, and then show off his Sky-class early phase strength. That was it. He could go back and claim his reward. But now it didn't seem simple at all. It was suicide. The car Lin Yi was in had long since driven far away. After Lin Yi returned to his seat, he closed his eyes and began to cultivate, quickly recovering his strength from the jade space. Han Jingjing seemed to remember that Lin Yi was cultivating, so she didn't disturb him and continued to fiddle with the tablet. As for Wang Xinyan, seeing Lin Yi's situation, she hesitated for a moment before taking off her jacket and moving towards Lin Yi. She didn't know why Lin Yi needed to cultivate after fighting the two robbers, but after thinking about it carefully, Wang Xinyan could roughly guess that the two robbers weren't good people. Perhaps they were masters, and they'd used up a lot of Lin Yi's strength. Although Xiaolong was sitting not far in front, after a period of internal struggle, Wang Xinyan still decided to help Lin Yi. She wanted to speed up the speed of his practitioner's arts, so that he could recover faster. Chapter 2439. She was sure in her heart that she didn't like Xiaolong. Even if Xiaolong stood up and got beaten up, Xinyan only felt gratitude and sympathy for him. It was basically impossible for her to have a good impression of Xiaolong. Lin Yi didn't think that Xinyan would still make such a bold move when Xiaolong was in the car. It made him surprised and happy, but at the same time, he was confused. All the signs showed that Xinyan should like him, but why didn't she accept his confession? Although Xinyan's reason was that she had a fiancé, her actions betrayed her. If she really thought that Xiaolong was her fiancé, why would she be so close to him? Why wouldn't she stand up and care for Xiaolong after he got beaten up? Phew. Finally, after the car arrived at the destination, Lin Yi also recovered his energy. He breathed a sigh of relief, but at the same time, he smiled bitterly. The raging fire Bagua Palm was indeed very powerful. It could even injure a Sky-class early-stage master, but using it was really exhausting. Lin Yi had only used the 6th and 7th forms, and he had already used up all his energy. It seemed that it was impossible to use the 7th form twice in a row. It might be possible during normal practice, but it might not be possible when facing an enemy. In this way, Lin Yi only had powerful martial arts methods, but he couldn't use them at full strength. It was a kind of sorrow. He could obviously fight against a Sky-class early stage or even a peak early stage master, but because his own strength was too weak, he could only choose to retreat. However, Lin Yi shook his head again. He was really greedy. With the strength of a peak middle stage Earth class, he had the strength to fight against a Sky-class early stage master and even seriously injure a Sky-class early stage master. This kind of battle record was unprecedented, right? Although it couldn't be used frequently, it could be used as the last resort and last resort. Although the power wasn't as powerful as a chi bomb, it was much easier to use than a chi bomb. Even if it couldn't be used immediately, it could be used as a last resort. Although the car that Lin Yi was in had some trouble halfway, the driver still managed to catch up with the car in front. Although Lin Yi's car encountered some trouble halfway, the driver still managed to catch up with the car in front. December was a good time for skiing, and this place was also a tourist attraction, so there were many tourists. At least 2 or 3 students from 2 or 3 schools chose to hold winter outings here, including a high school. After the driver parked the bus, he told everyone to get off. The bus driver wiped the sweat off his forehead as he looked at the students getting off the bus. They had encountered 2 groups of robbers along the way. Fortunately, the second group was weaker, and there was a student who knew martial arts. Before the robbers could get into the car, the robbers were chased away. Otherwise, things would have been very troublesome. However, the students didn't think as much as the bus driver. When they arrived at their destination, all of them were in a good mood and had long forgotten about the previous unhappiness. They had regained their spirits and were excitedly discussing the scenery and attractions of the ski resort. Of course, there were exceptions. For example, Xiaolong and Tiger Right's group. Xiaolong's face was pale, and he grimaced in pain. The wounds on his butt and face were mostly healed, but his balls were hurting. It wouldn't be healed in a short time. Right Panhu, on the other hand, was panicking. He had to call his family to confirm if the 2 masters they sent were the ones Lin Yi had crippled. Lin Yi, Han Jingjing, and Wang Xinyan got off the bus, and Bai Weituo and Zhao Xingji also got off with He Meiwei and Chai Xiaoling. Because we wasted a lot of time on the road, but in the end, we were all safe. I'm afraid everyone is hungry now, right? I've booked a few tables of delicious food at a nearby restaurant. Let's go eat something first. Only when you're full will you have the strength to ski. Boss Bai said after all the students got off the bus. When the students heard Boss Bai's words, they were really hungry. After all, it was already noon, and with the fright on the bus, their stomachs were already empty. They all agreed. Although this winter outing was held in the faculty after arriving at the ski resort. In fact, it was still an activity for each faculty. After all, none of the resorts and hotels here could accommodate all the biology students, so the task of leading the students to eat and stay fell on the head of the faculty. Boss Bai, on the other hand, found a restaurant and ordered some delicious food. The students went to a small restaurant nearby. Although the restaurant didn't look very luxurious, it had a rustic feel, and there were many customers inside. Boss Bai had clearly told them beforehand, so when everyone arrived, the dishes were quickly served. Although they were all ordinary farm dishes, they were very exquisite, making people salivate. After Lin Yi, Han Jingjing, and Wang Xinyan sat down, unexpectedly, Xiaolong sat on the other side of Wang Xinyan. Originally, this seat was supposed to be He Meiwei's, but because He Meiwei was a step slower, Xiaolong took the seat first. Wang Xinyan was sandwiched between Lin Yi and Xiaolong, and her face froze. She was blaming herself in her heart. Why did she sit so close to Lin Yi? Wasn't that giving him trouble? Wasn't Xiaolong here now? He Meiwei walked to Xiaolong's side helplessly. Senior Kong, you're sitting on my seat? This is your seat? Xiaolong pretended to be surprised. When we entered the restaurant, didn't Professor Bai say that everyone could sit wherever they wanted? But I'm good friends with Wang Xinyan. You wouldn't let me stand here alone, would you? Himeiwa blinked, deciding to help Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan. Junior sister, it's not that I don't want to give you my seat, but I'm injured. Look, I'm injured all over my body. You won't be so inconsiderate as a senior, will you? Xiaolong smiled bitterly and said pitifully. Himeiwa was speechless. She didn't think that Xiaolong would come up with this reason, but she really couldn't reject it. Why don't you switch seats with Lin Yi? He's not injured, and he's very healthy. He even fought off 2 robbers just now. Xiaolong kicked the ball to Lin Yi. Forget it then. Himeiwa was a little speechless. What was the point of swapping Lin Yi out? Xiaolong didn't think that being injured would be a blessing in disguise. If Himeiwa wanted to switch seats with him, he wouldn't have any reason to reject her.
To be continued.
Chapter 2440. Lin Yi didn't expect Xiaolong to be this shameless, but there was nothing he could do about it. Out of sight, out of mind, out of mind. The food here was really good. Perhaps it was because everyone was hungry, but they couldn't stop praising these farm dishes. Xiaolong wanted to find something to talk about with Xinyan, but everyone was eating, and the atmosphere was a little heavy. He didn't know what to say. These few days, Xiaolong had been reading a novel that Kong Mingming had recommended to him. It was called So Pure, So Flirtatious Prequel. It was said that there were a lot of tips on picking up girls and interesting things to do at the ski resort, so he decided to study it at the last minute. He was really engrossed in it, thinking that it was really useful. He suddenly remembered that the main character in the novel liked to tell jokes to his girlfriend, and that made the girl laugh out loud. Xiaolong felt that he should tell Xinyan a joke as well. I'm sure everyone's depressed because of the robbers, right? Seeing that everyone's so focused on eating and not talking, why don't I tell you a few jokes? Xiaolong said. Sure. Tiger Right, who wasn't far from Xiaolong, was the first to cheer. This joke is actually a brain twister. Xiaolong turned to Xinyan with a smile. What's that? It comes out from the butt, but it's still edible?
What?
Everyone froze, and even Tiger Right's expression froze. He felt a little disgusted. They were all eating. Why did they mention something that came out of the butt? Wasn't that shit? Xinyan, do you know? Xiaolong didn't notice the weird expressions on everyone's faces. He was focused on making Xinyan happy, and didn't think too much about it. He was an idiot when it came to relationships, or else he wouldn't have gone to those books to learn how to pick up girls. I don't know. Xinyan was focused on her food, and her face froze when she heard Xiaolong's words. She was speechless. It seems like no one knows. Then I'll reveal the answer. Xiaolong said proudly. The answer is an egg. Ha 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 ha. An egg comes out of a chicken's butt. How's that?
Fun, right? Ha ha.
Xinyan's chopsticks just happened to be holding a piece of egg. Her hand shook, and the egg fell onto the table. His expression was as strange as it could be. Ugh. Xiaolong realized that something wasn't right too. He didn't expect Xinyan to be eating an egg at that exact moment. He felt a little awkward. Xinyan, I was just joking, haha. Don't mind it, keep eating. Eggs come out of a chicken's butt, but don't they have shells? There's a saying that goes, make mud without being stained. This is the principle. Ahem, I'm full. Xinyan put down her chopsticks, having lost her appetite from Xiaolong. Lin Yi picked up a piece of egg and put it in his mouth. He looked at Xiaolong faintly.
Done?
Ugh, I'm done. Xiaolong's heart skipped a beat. He didn't believe that Lin Yi would do anything to him in front of everyone, but Lin Yi's calm tone just now was enough to scare him. Xiaolong couldn't help but get nervous. If you're done, then hurry up and eat. Lin Yi took a bottle of corn juice and gave it to Xinyan. Have some corn juice, you don't seem to have eaten much. Oh. Xinyan took the juice. She really didn't have much of an appetite after Xiaolong made her lose her appetite. Xiaolong was a little annoyed. It seemed like his brain wasn't working properly after the beating. He said something that pissed Xinyan off, but he didn't dare say anything else. He just sat there quietly and ate his food. Su Lingzi was the leader of the gangsters around the ski resort. Whenever he had nothing better to do, he'd bring his two lackeys, Ada and Aer, around the ski resort, collecting protection fees from the businesses nearby. Teasing pretty girls was something he enjoyed doing every day. Of course, the reason why Su Lingzi was able to do so well here without the ski resort taking any action was because he had a good uncle. His uncle was the general manager of the ski resort, and he turned a blind eye to his nephew's actions. The businesses in the ski resort were already making a lot of money anyways, and even if his nephew tried to extort them, they wouldn't stop paying the second year's rent. As long as there weren't any problems with the accounts, the chairman of the group wouldn't pay attention to the details of a ski resort under his banner.
Today.
Dazi Su brought his two lackeys to the farmhouse where Lin Yi and the others were, but when he saw that the place was full today, Dazi Su's face turned ugly. Ada, Aer, clear out a table for me. Su Lingzi ordered his two lackeys. Yes, Brother Lingzi. Ada and Aer quickly answered and started choosing their targets. While Ada and Aer were choosing their targets, Su Lingzi's eyes didn't stay idle. He looked at Wang Xinyan. This was a first-class beauty, and Rash Su's hobby was to flirt with beauties. His eyes lit up when he saw Wang Xinyan.
Wait.
Su Lingzi waved his hand, signaling Ada and Aer to slow down. What's wrong, Brother Lingzi? De quickly asked. There's a pretty girl. Su Lingzi pointed at Wang Xinyan's table. Han Jingjing was a pretty girl, but she was eating and playing with her tablet with her head down, so Su Lingzi didn't see her. Plus, the first person he saw was Wang Xinyan, so he automatically ignored everyone else. Su Lingzi walked behind Wang Xinyan with a smile, looking left and right. On one side was Lin Yi, and on the other side was Xiaolong. Su Lingzi wasn't an idiot. He saw that Lin Yi was unharmed, and Xiaolong's face was full of bruises, so he decided to pick a pushover. Pretty girl, not bad. I like it. Su Lingzi teased Xinyan and slapped the back of Xiaolong's head, yelling, Kid, stand up. Fuck. There was a big bump on the back of Xiaolong's head. Although he'd applied some medicine, it wasn't completely gone, and Su Lingzi's slap made him grimace in pain. He jumped up and glared at Su Lingzi. He'd already been pissed off enough. A couple of real robbers beat him up, and he didn't know what was going on. He got beaten up for nothing, and now he couldn't find anyone to take revenge on. After being scolded by Lin Yi, he didn't dare piss off Lin Yi, so he could only endure it. But after being slapped on the head by a gangster, Xiaolong couldn't take it anymore. To be continued. Chapter 2441. Especially when he wanted to tell jokes to Xinyan, but not only did he fail to do so, he made her so disgusted that she couldn't eat anymore. He couldn't let go of this chance to make up for it. Xiaolong stood up abruptly and pointed at Dazi Su. Do you want to die? How dare you tease my fiancé? Do you know who I am? Are you trying to be cocky with me? I wouldn't have bothered with you if you'd just stepped aside. Ada, Aer, beat him up. Dazi Su looked at Xiaolong's bruised face. No wonder he was covered in bruises. He was asking for a beating. Yes, Dazi bro. Ada and Aer walked over, smiling darkly. Both of them were experts in fighting. Ada picked up a plastic stool and put it over Xiaolong's head, locking him in place. Aer, on the other hand, aimed a kick at Xiaolong's crotch. Ouch! Xiaolong's upper body was covered by the plastic stool, and he couldn't tell north from south. He couldn't see what was going on in front of him, and he didn't know how to dodge. Aer's kick hit him squarely, and his vision went black as he knelt on the ground. This was the second time he'd gotten his balls kicked today, and he'd almost exploded. Fortunately, he had some experience protecting his crotch, or he wouldn't be able to do it after today. Tiger Yu was eating at the other table when he saw Xiaolong getting into trouble. He wanted to see what was going on, but before he could understand what was going on, Xiaolong got beaten up. Tiger Yu paled. Xiaolong had just gotten beaten up, and if he got beaten up again, wouldn't he have to be hospitalized? He was so scared that he quickly ordered the yellow hair and purple hair, hurry up and save Brother Kong. Yes. What about those gangsters? Yellow and Purple quickly stood up and asked as they walked. Beat them up, just don't die. Tiger was pissed as well. Today wasn't going well at all. All sorts of random people were jumping out at him. Why was he so unlucky? With right coiling Tiger's order. The yellow-haired man and purple-haired man naturally had no scruples. Each of them grabbed Ada's and Air's hair and lifted them up. With a gentle turn, Ada and Air were like goods. They were thrown into the restaurant's ceiling with a loud bang. Then the two men fell from the ceiling to the ground. There was another loud noise. Air was still fine, but Ada's head was facing the ground, and he fell like a dog biting you. All of his teeth fell out, and his mouth was filled with blood as he cried out miserably. Even dazed, Sue was dumbfounded. Although he was a hoodlum, he was usually brave and aggressive. But he had never seen a fight like this. Were these two people Hercules or something? Ada and Air were sent flying with just a gentle swing? Stunned, Sue's expression changed. He knew that he'd met a real tough opponent today. He wanted to apologize with a smile, but the yellow-haired man and purple-haired man wouldn't give him the chance. The yellow-haired man grabbed his hair and kicked him down. Then, he and the purple-haired man kicked him and Ada and Air, turning them into 3 bloody gourds. The yellow-haired man and the purple-haired man were both practitioners. Even if they didn't use pure chi, beating these hoodlums was a piece of cake. Pho. Xiaolong finally removed the plastic stool from his head, breathing heavily as he glared at the 3 people who'd made him attack. He started kicking and kicking them. The 3 who were already half dead were crying for their fathers and mothers. I didn't know that your men were so good at fighting. Then why didn't you do anything when Xiaolong was getting beaten up in the car? You're talking about me, aren't you? Lin Yi said indifferently. Coiling Tiger paused, remembering that he didn't let the yellow-haired man and the purple-haired man do anything. Lin Yi probably saw something wrong, but he couldn't admit it right now. He laughed it off. There were so many people on the car, and the robber had a gun. I let my men do it, but I couldn't guarantee the safety of the other students. Lin Yi smiled and didn't say anything else. However, after Stunned Sue was beaten up, the owner of the restaurant secretly called the general manager of the ski resort. Stunned Sue and his men had done a lot of bad things, and the owner of the restaurant hated them. Not only did they collect protection fees, but they also came here to eat and drink for free. But at the end of the day, Stunned Sue was the nephew of the general manager. Something happened in his restaurant, and the owner of the restaurant wanted to distance himself from it. And so, after Coiling Tiger Yu's men beat up the hooligans, a group of security guards rushed in and surrounded Xiaolong and Tiger Yu. Kid, you've got some guts. You dare hit our general manager's nephew? The security captain sneered as he looked at Coiling Tiger Yu, the yellow-haired man, the purple-haired man, and the beaten-up Xiaolong. He's lucky he didn't die. Coiling Tiger Yu, of course, wasn't afraid of these security guards. Yellow hair, purple hair, he's too talkative. Throw him out. Yes, Master Yu. The yellow-haired man and the purple-haired man replied and walked towards the security captain. The yellow-haired man grabbed the security captain's collar directly. However, when he was about to grab the security captain's collar, the security captain actually broke free in an instant. The purple-haired man looked at the security captain, surprised. Golden class, mid-phase? The security captain's face changed. He didn't think that the people in front of him could see through his training. This meant that the people in front of him weren't normal people. Who are you people? The captain of the security team hesitated for a moment, and his tone softened a lot. Someone who knew about cultivators and could tell his strength was at least a cultivator. The security captain only used his pure chi when he dodged, and that was how the people in front of him saw through his strength. Heh. The purple-haired man laughed coldly, showing off his mystic class mid-phase strength. He didn't dare to show off in front of Lin Yi, but a small security captain was only a golden class mid-phase. He didn't put him in his eyes. Mystic class mid-phase? The security captain's face changed. He hesitated and cupped his fists. Which road are you from, sir? Don't rush into the temple of the Dragon King. The ski resort I'm at is the property of the Firewolf Group. Firewolf Group. Coiling Tiger you paused. He didn't think that the ski resort was the property of the Fire Wolf Group. Yes, the security captain's face changed again. To be able to call out the Fire Wolf Group meant that these people knew quite a bit. Chapter 2442. I'm from the Hidden House you. Your people started harassing our classmates the moment they came in, and Brother Kong couldn't stand it anymore. He scolded them a bit, and they started fighting. I just asked my men to teach them a lesson. You Coiling Tiger knew that the fire wolves weren't to be messed with, but he wasn't afraid of these small fry in the gang. So you're a master from the Hidden House you. Sorry for the offense. The security captain nodded. Since you've said it out loud, let's forget about it. We'll mind our own business. With that, the security captain said to the other security guards, "Carry young Master Su, let's go."
Yes.
The security guards left as quickly as they came. In the blink of an eye, they were far away. Most of the students in the class were confused. Why did these people come in such a threatening manner, and you Coiling Tiger left after saying a few words? Of course, this was also because they were far away and they didn't hear what you Coiling Tiger and the security captain said. Lin Yi, however, frowned. It seemed that he had underestimated the fire wolves and red conches. They really had a lot of businesses. Boss Bai was eating with the other teachers in the private room, and he didn't notice what was happening outside. Bai Weitua saw that the matter was resolved, and naturally, he didn't report it. After lunch, Boss Bai brought everyone to a shopping mall in the ski field. He said, "Everyone can rent skis here. I'll pay for it, but if you need to buy skis, you'll have to pay for it yourself." Although everyone's money had been robbed along the way, the bank cards in their wallets were still there. The merchants here all supported credit cards, so some students didn't like to use rented old goods and preferred to buy a new pair of skis. Xiaolong was one of them. He had offended Wang Xinyan before, and he wanted to make it up to her. He quickly walked to Lin Yi, Wang Xinyan, and Han Jingjing. "Xinyan, what kind of skis do you want? I'll buy one for you." This was a trick Xiaolong learned from the book So Pure, So Flirtatious. He didn't know much about skis, but before Xinyan said anything, he pretended to be knowledgeable and said to the shop owner, "Boss, do you have skis suitable for girls? I want the Murloc card." There are special ones for girls, but the skis of the entertainment brand. The boss hesitated and said, "The skis of this brand aren't particularly easy to sell. Why don't you choose another brand?" "No need," Xiaolong said firmly. "I want the Fishman ski. It's this brand. There's no doubt about it. Don't worry so much. Hurry up and get it for me. Do you think that selling this brand won't bring you any profits? I can give you more money." Lin Yi was a little speechless at Xiaolong's behavior, but House Kong was indeed a nouveau riche family. Dr. Kong started with a prescription and didn't even know much about medicine, calling himself Dr. Kong. "Buy it yourself. We will buy another brand." Lin Yi glanced at the skis the boss took out and said directly, "Lin Yi, when it comes to fighting, you're the best. But when it comes to snowboards, I'm a professional." Xiaolong had been reading and learning these days, and the Murloc card was a very high-quality ski. That was why he asked for it. "Oh, don't regret it," Lin Yi replied nonchalantly as he pointed at another brand of snowboards on the counter. "I'll take this. Give me 3 pairs, 2 for women, 1 for men. Okay?" The boss nodded. He gave Xiaolong a pair of skis from the entertainment brand and gave Lin Yi 3 of the most popular skis in the shop. Xiaolong's face wasn't looking good. It seemed that Xinyan didn't believe him at all and chose to believe Lin Yi instead. But Xiaolong wasn't in a hurry to turn on Lin Yi. If he lost his composure in front of Xinyan, she would look down on him even more. So Xiaolong felt that it was better to take things step by step. He still had an important plan to implement. There was no need to be calculative over a temporary loss. After buying the skis and some ski equipment, Lin Yi, Xinyan, and Han Jingjing left the shop. Some of the other students also bought some ski equipment. Although the skis could be rented, it was better to buy the ski shoes and goggles themselves. Xinyan was holding a pile of things Lin Yi bought for her. She felt very conflicted. If it wasn't for the fact that she didn't bring her bank card and gave all her cash to the robbers, she wouldn't have asked Lin Yi to spend money. But she was even more unwilling to ask Xiaolong to spend money. Although she didn't make a clear statement to Lin Yi, she had been so intimate with Lin Yi. Deep down in her heart, she already considered herself as Lin Yi's woman. She also believed that with the buffer of 4 years in university, Lin Yi would definitely be able to make the Sky Elixir sect compromise. As a result, Xinyan didn't want to owe Xiaolong anything. If she were to take something from him now, it'd be troublesome for her to pay him back in the future. So, after some internal struggle, Xinyan decided to take it. Lin Yi didn't expect Xinyan to have so many thoughts. After changing into ski equipment, Lin Yi asked, Jingjing, Xinyan, do you guys know how to ski? Lin Yi asked Han Jingjing and Xinyan, a little amused as he saw Bai Weidua fall a couple of times after changing into his ski gear. No, but it doesn't look hard. I can give it a try. Han Jingjing had been observing people who were good at skiing for a long time, and she had a general understanding of the rules. Xinyan, on the other hand, was a little hesitant. She looked at Zhao Xingji and Chai Xiaoling holding hands, learning how to ski. She didn't expect Zhao Xingji to be so good at skiing despite being so fat, and Chai Xiaoling was obviously learning under his guidance. This scene made Xinyan wonder if Lin Yi would teach her the same way if she didn't know how to ski. But at that moment, Xiaolong walked out with his skis and smiled at Xinyan. Xinyan, you don't know how to ski, do you? Let me teach you? Annie knows about the winter outing, so she asked me to take care of you. Xiaolong didn't know much about snowboards, but that didn't mean he didn't know how to ski. Quite the contrary, he'd rented a set of ski equipment a couple of days ago when he was scouting the area with Tiger Wright. He'd spent the whole afternoon learning from the ski instructor, and while he couldn't say that he was a great skier, he was pretty good. To be continued. Chapter 2443. Xiaolong didn't have many good points, but he was very good at learning. He'd memorized all the important points the coach taught him just for this moment. Oh, I don't know how to do it either. Teach me and Xinyan, Lin Yi said expressionlessly as he looked at Xiaolong. Ah. Xiaolong blinked.
What?
You don't know how to do it? Yeah, Xiaolong, since you're so passionate, you wouldn't just teach Xinyan and not me, would you? You wouldn't discriminate when Boss Bai encourages students to help each other, would you? Lin Yi said faintly. Xiaolong didn't know what to say. He didn't think that Lin Yi would jump out at this time, but there was nothing he could do. Alright, I'll ski one round, and you watch me ski. How much you learn will depend on your ability to learn. Xinyan's a girl, and I've been asked by her parents to take care of her. It's not that I don't want to teach you, but I don't have enough time. Oh, go ahead then. Lin Yi nodded. Xiaolong quickly changed into ski shoes, skis, and goggles. Watch me, guys. Xiaolong said after getting everything ready.
Oh.
Lin Yi responded, a mocking look in his eyes, but Xiaolong couldn't see it when he turned around. He warmed up and started skiing according to the skills he'd learned from the coach. Skiing wasn't hard. As long as you didn't make sharp turns or race, and didn't do anything dangerous, normal people could learn it in a short amount of time. Xiaolong had practiced it before. It didn't take long for him to get the hang of it. Xiaolong skated faster and faster. He wanted to show off in front of Xinyan, but tragedy always happened when he was feeling proud. With a loud crack, Xiaolong's skis actually broke. Xiaolong fell head first onto the ground, rolling down the slope like a snowball. He rolled for a long time before he stopped, but his hair and body were covered in snow. He struggled for a long time before he finally got up. Yu Coiling Tiger had been squatting far away with his 2 subordinates. Yupan, who didn't like skiing, and he was only here to accompany Xiaolong. While he was doing nothing, he saw something happen to Xiaolong. He hurriedly led his men and ran over. Kongbro, are you alright? Tiger Wright helped Xiaolong up. No. I'm so fucking unlucky. Xiaolong looked at the broken skis under his feet, speechless. His luck today was unusually bad. The ski broke? This thing can break? Could it be Lin Yi's doing? Right, Coiling Tiger frowned, thinking back to the Hidden House conference. Lin Yi had caused Zhao Qibing to fail for no reason. He suddenly had a bad feeling about this.
Lin Yi?
It couldn't be, right? I didn't even let him touch my skis. Xiaolong hesitated, unsure of what he was thinking. It's hard to say. He didn't touch your skis. However, he was a cultivator. What if he hit a pebble or something? It could break your skis too, right? Right, Coiling Tiger said. Let's go find Lin Yi. Xiaolong couldn't take it anymore and took off his skis. He grabbed the skis and went to find Lin Yi to demand an explanation. Xiaolong, your skiing skills are amazing. You even did a front somersault in the middle of the skis. We can't learn that. You'd be able to participate in a figure skiing show, Lin Yi said mockingly. He was pissed when he remembered that this guy was Xinyan's fiancé. Lin Yi, did you do this? Did you break my skis and embarrass me in front of Xinyan? Xiaolong ignored Lin Yi's mockery and questioned him directly. Xiaolong's words made Xinyan glance at Lin Yi. Xinyan didn't like Xiaolong and didn't want to have anything to do with him, but Xiaolong was still her official fiancé. Since Xinyan didn't want to be with him, she didn't want Lin Yi and Xiaolong to have any conflict. She didn't want to be with him, and she didn't want anything bad to happen. What did I do? Lin Yi paused and remembered the broken skis in Xiaolong's hands. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You're talking about the skis? Humph. It's good that you admit it. Xiaolong humphed coldly. Admit what?
Admit what?
You bought a pair of skis made from low-quality steel. The steel is hard and brittle in this cold weather, and the skis must be made from aluminum alloy. Don't tell me you don't know that? Lin Yi mocked. You spent a lot of money to buy a piece of trash, and you're saying that someone broke it? Is that so? Xiaolong paused and said, That's impossible. I bought the Fishman skis, the best skis out there. How could there be a problem? It's a knockoff, right? Lin Yi smiled. Xiaolong's eyes slid to the skis in his hands. When he saw the words entertainer on it, his face twitched. How is this a Fishman skis? It was a knockoff with the same name. He looked at the quality of the skis again. It was really bad. It was a piece of trash used to make up the numbers. Xiaolong couldn't help but blush. He didn't notice these details at all. He didn't think that Lin Yi would have noticed it long ago. Why didn't you tell me before? Xiaolong felt a little guilty, but he was still angry that Lin Yi didn't warn him earlier. He wouldn't have made a fool of himself and fallen so hard. I told you, don't regret buying it. You didn't listen, Lin Yi said. Fuck. Xiaolong thought about it and recalled that Lin Yi really did say something like that, but he thought that Lin Yi was just arguing with him. Who would have thought that it wasn't the case? It was his fault for not taking it seriously. Xinyan, on the other hand, thought that Lin Yi was a magnanimous person, maintaining his composure in front of his love rival. He even warned Xiaolong beforehand, but Xiaolong didn't listen. He brought this on himself. So, who could he blame? Xinyan blushed at the thought of the word love rival. How could she think like that? She'd have to wait at least 4 years before she graduated from university. Xinyan, Jing. Did you guys understand Xiaolong's demonstration? Of course, I'm talking about before. You don't need to learn the forward roll, Lin Yi said. Jing understood a little. Han Jing nodded, but I don't think it's as good as Lin Yi, bro. Xiaolong looked down on Han Jing. Wasn't this girl a little too open with her flattery? Right, Coiling Tiger, on the other hand, frowned. Lin Yi and Han Jing's relationship seemed to be getting better and better. This wasn't good for him to get close to her. To be continued. Chapter 2444. Xiaolong humphed and turned to Tiger right. Lil bro, let's go find that shop owner and get even with him. How dare he sell our counterfeit goods? After Xiaolong left, Xinyan hesitated for a bit before deciding to go skiing with Lin Yi and Han Jing. Xinyan wasn't very skilled, but she was smart. She watched as the others skated and copied them, slowly starting to ski as well. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't plan on taking advantage of Xinyan. He could do it any time he wanted. It didn't have to be when they were skiing. Lin Yi just followed behind Xinyan and Han Jing, afraid that they'd fall like Xiaolong. The afternoon passed quickly, and Xiaolong and Tiger Right had returned a long time ago, but they didn't go skiing again. Instead, they sat at a nearby beverage shop and drank hot tea. Asking for an explanation for the snowboards was just an excuse for Xiaolong. He didn't really have any reason to go to the owner of the snowboards. He wanted to buy the snowboard himself, and both the shop owner and Lin Yi told him not to. Who could he blame if he didn't listen? He could only blame his poor eyesight for not seeing the counterfeit brand clearly. Everyone rested at night at a villa on another mountain. They had to take a cable car or a helicopter to get there. Of course, the cost of a helicopter was too high. Usually, only the rich would choose this method. The school connected all the students to the cable car, and Xiaolong and Tiger Right had already asked about this beforehand. Each cable car could only take 2 people, and it would be a good opportunity for Xiaolong and Xinyan. Medical students had the least number of students, so Boss Bai arranged for them to be at the back. But this way, the medical students could play a little longer at the ski field, and naturally no one objected. Xinyan, come with me on the cable car later? Xiaolong walked over and invited her. The entertainment snowboard in his hand had long since been thrown away. Auntie just called me and asked me to take care of you? Wang Xinyan wanted to refuse. But after hearing the second half of Xiaolong's sentence, she felt troubled. Xiaolong's words had, without a doubt, touched her most nervous heartstrings. Xiaolong's words reminded her that too much contact with Lin Yi right now wouldn't do him any good. For Lin Yi, the heavenly elixir sect was an unsurpassable existence. If she behaved too intimately with Lin Yi, she would definitely be punished. It would bring Lin Yi a lot of unnecessary trouble. Xinyan sighed as she recalled how Xiaolong had been fawning over her all along the way. She didn't know why Xiaolong's House Kong was looking for a marriage alliance, now that they had such a powerful backer. Could it be that it was just for the sake of face? But thinking about it, sometimes people lived by their face, especially aristocratic families. What was the difference between a Shao family that had become an aristocratic family and a Shao family that had not become an aristocratic family? Without strength, what was the use of fighting for a title? But Shao families still wanted to stand firmly in the ranks of aristocratic families. House Kong was the same. In the eyes of these aristocratic families, the face of the family was more important than anything else. She was Xiaolong's fiancée. If she were to be with Lin Yi, especially when Lin Yi was House Kang's enemy, wouldn't it be a slap in the face? Xinyan looked at Xiaolong's wounded body and hesitated. It shouldn't be a problem to ride the same cable car as him. He was injured all over, so he shouldn't do anything dirty, right? Alright, but we're still students. Even if we're engaged, some things can only be discussed after we graduate. Xinyan hesitated before speaking to Xiaolong. Her meaning was clear, and she believed that Xiaolong would be able to understand it. As expected, a flash of anger appeared in Xiaolong's eyes. Xiaolong had just transferred, but he'd heard a lot of rumors about Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan because of Tiger Right's presence. During military training, she was living with Lin Yi, and the two were very intimate in the car. Xinyan seemed to be helping Lin Yi with that. All of this made Xiaolong feel like he was being cheated on. He wasn't too sure, but with his years of medical experience, he could tell that Xinyan was still a virgin. He calmed himself down and said, "Of course, Auntie said that we should respect each other." Xiaolong thought that if he wanted to develop a relationship with Xinyan, this time on the cable car wouldn't be a problem. Once something unexpected happened, Xinyan would develop a sense of dependence on him. All right. Xinyan didn't reject Xiaolong after hearing his words. Lin Yi frowned. He didn't really want Xinyan and Xiaolong to be on the same cable car, but it was true that only 2 people could sit on a cable car. This was Xinyan's decision, and Lin Yi wouldn't interfere. But Xinyan's words made Lin Yi ponder. Graduate from university? Xinyan evidently didn't like Xiaolong. She would have been acting so intimately with Xiaolong otherwise, but with Xiaolong, it was just mutual respect. What Lin Yi didn't understand was what Xinyan was thinking. She didn't like Xiaolong, and yet she still wanted to keep the engagement. Was there some secret she couldn't tell? Although Lin Yi really wanted to find out, Xinyan wouldn't tell him if he asked directly. He could only observe from the side. The other students had already left on the cable car to the resort on the other side of the mountain. His classmates also got on the cable car with the staff, and only Lin Yi, Han Jingjing, Xiaolong, and Xinyan were left. The last ones to get on the cable car were Tiger Right's underlings, Yellow Hair and Purple Hair. Let's go. Lin Yi, you stay behind. Xiaolong gestured for Xinyan to get on the cable car. Xinyan saw that he was being obedient and didn't try anything funny, so she nodded and got on the cable car. The two seats in the cable car were facing each other, so they weren't too close. After Xinyan got on, Xiaolong got on as well. When Xinyan and Xiaolong's cable car was far away, Lin Yi and Han Jingjing got on the cable car at the back. Xinyan, you seem a little scared? Do you have acrophobia? Xiaolong smiled as he looked at the nervous Xinyan. Xinyan didn't have acrophobia, but she wasn't used to sitting in the same cable car as Xiaolong. To be continued. Chapter 24:45. She couldn't answer Xiaolong's question directly, so she nodded lightly. Do you need my warm hand? Xiaolong reached out, wanting her to hold his hand. No, it's fine. Xinyan shifted her gaze to the outside of the cable car, looking at the two snowy mountains with a bottomless valley in the middle. It was all so beautiful, but it was too bad that she wasn't riding the cable car with Lin Yi. Xinyan's heart skipped a beat when she thought of Lin Yi. She realized that ever since Lin Yi confessed to her, she wasn't calm anymore. She'd think of Lin Yi often, but it was a blur. Now that she thought of Lin Yi, she'd always put him in the position of boyfriend. It was a difficult situation. She knew that this couldn't go on, but there was nothing she could do. The hardest thing to control was the human heart. Feelings couldn't be changed by willpower. Even if Xinyan didn't want to think of Lin Yi, she still had to remind herself not to think of Lin Yi. That was the same as thinking of Lin Yi. It was really difficult. Xinyan, do you think the cable car will crash and fall? Xiaolong asked. How would I know? Xinyan frowned. Couldn't Xiaolong say something auspicious? Why was he thinking about the cable car crash? It's not impossible for the cable car to fall into the valley, Xiaolong said. But it's fine. I've prepared some survival equipment.
Xinyan didn't know what to say.
This Xiaolong really was the best choice for a boyfriend, who told disgusting jokes during a meal and cursed the cable car for crashing the moment they got on. If it was Lin Yi, he'd probably hug her and train. Why was she thinking of Lin Yi again? Xinyan shook her head. Xiaolong thought that she didn't believe the cable car would crash when she shook her head. Of course, it wouldn't crash under normal circumstances, but this situation was a bit special. Xiaolong had been studying the prequel to So Pure, So Flirtatious. The main character was at the ski resort when he was hitting on girls. Then, the male and female protagonists fell into the valley together. Then, they survived in the wild together and finally fell in love. In the wilderness, especially when there was danger, it was easy to feel helpless. If Xiaolong put his heart into it, it wouldn't be a problem for him to win Xinyan's heart. However, what he feared would come true. Xinyan was admiring the beautiful scenery outside the window when she heard an explosion. She felt the gravity go out of control and realized that the cable car she was on had left the cable car and was falling straight down into the valley. Xinyan didn't know what to say. She was annoyed at Xiaolong's jinx. She decided that she would never be with Xiaolong again. This guy was too unlucky, getting beaten up by robbers and gangsters all the time. He was tricked to buy a snowboard, and the cable car broke in the middle. He was possessed by the god of misfortune. Xiaolong, naturally, didn't think that Xinyan had already categorized him as a dangerous person to stay away from. She was still proud of herself for coming up with such a good plan. He'd studied the location of this ski resort before. The cable car was built between two mountains and there was a lake at the foot of the mountain. There was even a cave nearby, and it was a paradise for lovers. If only he and Xinyan could get lost in this place, then he'd be able to. He felt that something interesting was about to happen. Wang Xinyan, in her loneliness and helplessness, might also be happy. Xinyan, don't worry. We'll jump out now. If we fall in this cable car, we'll die for sure. Xinyan opened the door and jumped before Xiaolong could finish. She wasn't confident in Xiaolong, but she was confident in Lin Yi. She'd known Lin Yi for a long time, and she knew that falling from this height wasn't dangerous for a practitioner like Lin Yi. She didn't want Xiaolong to hug her and take advantage of her. At this moment, Xinyan was thinking that if Lin Yi really didn't care about her and didn't come to save her, then it'd be better if he died. She wouldn't let Xiaolong take advantage of her, and she wouldn't have to worry about these things. Lin Yi frowned when he saw that Xiaolong's cable car was shot down by Purple Hair's hidden weapon. He could roughly guess Xiaolong's trick. No wonder this guy wanted to ride the cable car with Xinyan. He wanted to play unfinished love in the valley. Jingjing, stay in the cable car. Don't wait for me.
I'll go save Xinyan.
Take care of yourself, Lin Yi said to Han Jingjing. Okay. Han Jingjing didn't stop Lin Yi. She nodded quickly to show that she understood. Before the cable car left the cable car, the doors were electronically controlled. It couldn't be opened unless the circuit was destroyed or the cable car was derailed. However, Lin Yi broke through the window and jumped down in Xinyan's direction. With their falling speed, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to catch up to Xinyan. But Lin Yi was a practitioner, and with the help of pure qi, catching up to Xinyan wasn't a problem. Xiaolong didn't think that Xinyan would be so decisive. She jumped down when he told her to, but he wasn't even done talking. Xiaolong wanted to say that he had a parachute and let Xinyan carry him down, but Xinyan didn't seem to be waiting for him at all. Xiaolong jumped down from the cable car. If he let Xinyan fall down, wouldn't she be dead? With that in mind, Xiaolong jumped down from the cable car and chased after Xinyan, preparing to open the parachute in his backpack. Luckily, Xiaolong had a power jet in his backpack. Otherwise, he really wouldn't be able to catch up to Xinyan. Of course, this power jet was also prepared for a safe landing when the time came. There was a lake at the bottom of the valley, after all. The water in the lake was flowing, and there was only a thin layer of ice on top. Xiaolong didn't want to fall into the lake, so he used the power jet to change his landing position. He didn't expect to use it to chase after Xinyan. Xinyan didn't think too much when she jumped down, but the sound of the wind whistling in her ears scared her. She looked down at the bottomless abyss, and she felt like she was really going to die. Xinyan, I'm coming. Catch me. Xiaolong didn't care about opening the parachute. Chasing after Xinyan was more important. If he opened the parachute, his speed would be very slow, and he wouldn't be able to catch up to Xinyan. To be continued. Chapter 2446. Xinyan had an instinctive urge to live. She really wanted to grab onto Xiaolong, but she knew that if she did, their relationship would be complicated in the future. Xinyan gritted her teeth and pretended that she didn't hear anything. But just because Xinyan didn't hear him didn't mean that Xiaolong didn't care. He used his jet boost to chase after Xinyan, and just as he was about to catch up, he felt a huge force pushing him to the side from his back. Fuck off. Lin Yi kicked Xiaolong's back, sending him more than 10 meters away.
Fuck.
Lin Yi, why is it you again? Xiaolong was furious when he saw Lin Yi. He was about to explode. He thought that he and Xinyan would have a romantic love story when they fell into the valley, but he didn't think that Lin Yi would follow them as well. Not only did he follow them, but he also ruined his chance to be intimate with Xinyan. Xiaolong was furious. Lin Yi, aren't you a little too mean? Kicking me from behind? That's not as mean as letting the purple hair knock the cable car down. Lin Yi glared coldly at Xiaolong, thinking that this kid had some tricks up his sleeves. He wasn't a complete idiot after all. He knew to knock the cable car down and bring a parachute and jet boost just to have a romantic trip to the bottom of the valley with Xinyan. Xiaolong didn't expect Lin Yi to know what he was doing so well. His face froze, and he didn't know how to refute. Xinyan, on the other hand, was furious after hearing Xiaolong's words. She thought that the cable car falling was an accident, but who would have thought that it wasn't an accident at all? It was Xiaolong's scheme. The thought of Xiaolong using her life as a joke made Xinyan hate Xiaolong even more. She didn't want to see Xiaolong get so unlucky every time, but now she felt that he deserved it.
So,
when Lin Yi came over to hug her, she only struggled a little before accepting it. She was pissed off by Xiaolong. Xiaolong's face darkened after being exposed by Lin Yi. He felt that Lin Yi was the villain in very pure, very dubious prequel, but in reality, the villain had become the main character. Had he become the villain? But there was nothing Xiaolong could do. Lin Yi was hugging Xinyan, and all he could do was watch. The most important thing right now was to stay alive. Xiaolong reached out to press the parachute button on his backpack, but his face paled when he touched it. Coincidentally, the button of the parachute had just been kicked to pieces by Lin Yi.
Lin Yi.
You broke my parachute. Xiaolong glared at Lin Yi.
Oh.
Lin Yi didn't even look at him. He snorted.
Fuck.
Are you trying to kill me? Xiaolong screamed at the top of his lungs when he saw that Lin Yi was ignoring him. Save me. I'll die if I fall.
Oh.
Lin Yi ignored him. Xiaolong panicked. He didn't expect this to happen. The parachute was broken. If he fell, would he be able to survive? In a moment of desperation, Xiaolong had no choice but to beg.
Lin Yi.
Please save me. I don't want to die.
Oh.
Lin Yi continued to ignore him. If you save me, I can turn a blind eye to what happened between you and Xinyan. Please. Xiaolong didn't care about his dignity anymore. His life was more important. But even though he said that, he didn't think that way at all. His priority was to stay alive. If he denied it, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do anything. You can control the jet assist yourself. Isn't there a lake down there? You won't die if you jump into it. Lin Yi reminded him, but he didn't believe Xiaolong's words. Xiaolong must be a villain to be able to do something like this. Xiaolong saw that Lin Yi wasn't going to help him, so he had no choice but to control the jet assist and adjust his falling direction to the lake below the valley. Xinyan looked at Xiaolong like a stray dog and found it funny. She didn't feel sorry for Xiaolong at all. He brought this upon himself. The cable car was working perfectly fine, but he let Tiger Wright's men destroy it, and now he's suffering the consequences of his own actions. Lin Yi held Xinyan in his arms. Xinyan couldn't feel the cold wind around her because of the pure qi barrier, but Xiaolong was in a much worse situation. Not only did he have to watch his feet in the cold wind, but he also had to control the jet assist with cold sweat all over his body, afraid that he'd fall off and become a cripple. After a while, Lin Yi landed with Xinyan in his arms. Xinyan didn't even feel the impact of the landing, as Lin Yi's pure qi barrier had completely nullified it. Xiaolong, on the other hand, plopped his butt on the ice of the lake, punched a hole in the ice, and dived into the lake. After a long time, he crawled out of the hole, sneezing and looking very pitiful. Achoo! Xiaolong climbed out of the lake shakily. Luckily, he knew how to swim, and the place he dived into was a little shallow. He couldn't even reach his head if he stood up straight. Otherwise, he'd freeze to death even if he didn't fall to his death. Lin Yi was looking around, not in a hurry to go back. This was a chance for Xiaolong to get close to Xinyan, but it was also a chance for Lin Yi. Being able to spend time with Xinyan alone was a rare opportunity, so Lin Yi wasn't in a hurry to leave. Xinyan, let's find a place to rest first, Lin Yi said to Xinyan after seeing a cave nearby. Okay. Xinyan looked at Xiaolong and nodded after some hesitation. Xiaolong was in a pretty bad state right now, but the thought of what Xiaolong had done before, especially the crash of the cable car, made Xinyan grit her teeth in anger. How could this person not care about other people's lives at all? Was he trying to murder her? Lin Yi and Xinyan entered the cave, and Xiaolong shamelessly followed them. He had no choice but to follow them. This was the cave he'd found the other day on the helicopter ride with Tiger Wright, and it was the closest one. He'd even hidden some branches in the cave to start a fire. To be continued. Chapter 2447. If they went to another cave, there wouldn't be any branches. He was shivering from the cold right now, and it was like asking him to pick up some more branches.
How could he do that?
There's some branches here. Can we start a fire? Xinyan was a little cold as well. Although Lin Yi had used his pure energy to protect her, she still felt the chill in this empty valley. Half. Xiaolong yelled as he ran over, panting heavily. His heart was bleeding, however. He was the one who found the tree branch, and he had to give half of it to Lin Yi. But he didn't dare reject Xinyan's discovery. After all. Oh, you can have half then, Lin Yi said faintly. He could tell that the branches were placed here by someone else. Who else could it be other than Xiaolong? Haha. Xiaolong didn't hold back. He thought for a moment and said, "Right, do you guys have lighters? Why don't we start a fire here? I'll start a fire, and we'll all stay together. What do you think?" "Oh, okay." Lin Yi didn't want to freeze Xiaolong to death in a situation like this. After all, Boss White valued the harmony between his disciples a lot, and Lin Yi respected Boss White a lot. Boss White's background wasn't simple, and Lin Yi had to listen to him. "Then I won't hold back." Xiaolong was overjoyed. He took out a lighter from his pocket and squatted in front of the branches. "You're quite well equipped, aren't you? You don't smoke and you have a lighter with you? You prepared it long ago, didn't you?" Lin Yi looked at Xiaolong teasingly. "You wanted to have a romantic night with Xinyan in the cave, and you didn't expect me to join?" Xiaolong felt a little awkward, but he couldn't deny it. Looking at Xinyan's displeased face, Xiaolong thought that today was his unlucky day. If he'd known this was going to happen, he wouldn't have gone through with this plan. How unlucky. However, the worst thing was yet to come. Xiaolong pressed the lighter twice, and his face froze. The lighter was soaked in water, and he couldn't light it. "Aren't you going to light a fire? What's wrong?" Lin Yi smiled at Xiaolong. "Water," Xiaolong said, his face pale. "Since you cannot contribute, there is no other way. You can forget about enjoying this bonfire," Lin Yi said coolly. You have a way?" Xiaolong paused and looked at Lin Yi. "You have a lighter?"
No.
Lin Yi shook his head. "Why are you talking about me if you don't have it?" Xiaolong glared at Lin Yi. "Can you fix the lighter? Go cultivate yourself." Lin Yi casually tossed out a fire-type alchemic flame. The twigs caught on fire with a whoosh. The fire was very strong. Xiaolong remembered that Lin Yi was a refiner, and he could condense alchemic flame. He didn't need a lighter at all, so he shamelessly came over. "It's a waste if I don't use the heat from this bonfire anyways. Let me have some?" "Sure, but you'll have to go collect the twigs later." Lin Yi didn't push him too far. "All right, let me dry my clothes first." Xiaolong agreed without hesitation. He and Tiger Right had picked up the twigs earlier, and he knew where to find them. Xiaolong was shivering by the fire, and Xinyan had recovered a long time ago. She didn't have any water on her, and it was just a bit of cold air. She was fine now. "Hungry?" Lin Yi asked. I'm fine." Xinyan still couldn't let go. She didn't like Xiaolong very much, but she was afraid that he'd force the sky elixir sect to harm Lin Yi. "I'll go catch some fish." Lin Yi stood up. "Okay, I'll sleep for a bit. I'm a bit sleepy." Xinyan didn't want to be alone with Xiaolong, so she found an excuse. Xiaolong was speechless. He heard that Lin Yi was going to catch fish. He was very happy, but when he heard that Xinyan was going to sleep, he didn't know what to say. But he couldn't let Xinyan stay up to talk to him, could he? Lin Yi left, and Xinyan closed her eyes to rest. Xiaolong could only sit by the fire, depressed. But thinking about the delicious fish he'd be eating soon, his mouth watered. He had some chocolate and hardtacks in his backpack, but they weren't as delicious as the fish. Lin Yi came to the lakeside. There were always some fish in a naturally formed lake. Lin Yi walked carefully to the hole Xiaolong had made and closed his eyes, using the jade senses to reach out and catch the fish in a lake. It didn't take long for him to catch 4 fish. He took out a blade from his shoe and cut open the fish's stomach before returning to the cave. Although Lin Yi didn't think that Xiaolong would do anything to Xinyan, Lin Yi still wanted to be quick. He returned to the cave and saw that Xinyan was still sleeping. He let out a breath of relief. "You're back." Xinyan heard footsteps and opened her eyes. She was happy to see Lin Yi. "Yeah." Lin Yi found a few branches and put the fish on top of the fire to roast. Xiaolong didn't know what to say to Xinyan, who had slept for less than 20 minutes. Xinyan obviously didn't want to talk to him. He could feel that ever since the cable car incident, Xinyan had become a lot colder towards him. Xinyan had kept her distance from him before, but it wasn't like now, where she didn't even want to talk to him. Soon, the fish was done. There wasn't any seasoning, but it was delicious. Xiaolong's mouth watered. "Can we eat now?" "Yes, but you can't eat it." Lin Yi took a skewer of fish and gave it to Xinyan.
Why?
Xiaolong's hand froze. Go get it yourself if you want. Xinyan and I will each get 2 skewers. You're not getting any, Linny said as he took a skewer and started eating. Xiaolong really wanted to snatch it, but he didn't dare. He was afraid of getting beaten up. He smiled bitterly and squeezed out an expression that looked worse than crying. Okay, he's a bad guy, but you don't have to be so harsh. We're classmates, after all. Xinyan didn't want Lin Yi to offend Xiaolong. You want to eat and get something for free? There's no such thing as a free lunch. Lin Yi didn't care. Xiaolong didn't have Lin Yi's strong senses, and he didn't have Lin Yi's skills either. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation.
M.
Chapter 2448. Even though he could occasionally see a few fish swimming around, he couldn't catch them. After a long time, he didn't catch anything. Instead, he used too much strength, and the ice beneath his feet cracked. Xiaolong jumped back into the cold lake, screaming. Ah! A scream attracted Lin Yi and Xinyan's attention, but Lin Yi didn't care when he saw that Xiaolong had only fallen into the lake. He wasn't far from the shore, and the water was shallow. Xiaolong wasn't in a rush to get back up after falling into the lake. Enduring the cold, he reached out his hands to fish around in the lake, trying to catch some fish to roast, but the fish were very smart. He couldn't catch them no matter what, and after a long time of searching, he didn't find a single fish. Just as he was feeling depressed, he felt 2 things from the bottom of the lake. He didn't know what they were, but he picked them up. It was a turtle, and the turtle was holding a small bottle in its claws. After Xiaolong caught the turtle, it released its claws and retracted its head and claws back into its shell, leaving the bottle in Xiaolong's hands. I'm quite lucky. I didn't catch a fish, but I caught a turtle. Xiaolong grinned, thinking that the turtle was fine. He hadn't eaten a roasted turtle before, and he didn't know what it tasted like. He didn't go fishing anymore and climbed up the shore, running back quickly. He waved the turtle in front of Xinyan and Lin Yi. What do you think? It's pretty high class, right? This thing costs a lot in the market. Oh, you eat it then? Lin Yi looked at the turtle, not thinking much of it. He'd never heard of a turtle being roasted before. How is it supposed to be roasted with such a thick shell? Xinyan, do you want it? Xiaolong didn't even want to give it to Lin Yi.
His target was Xinyan.
No, thanks. I'm full. Xinyan shook her head, thinking that the turtle was quite scary. Xiaolong prepared to roast the turtle while warming the fire, but when it came time to do so, Xiaolong didn't know how to roast the turtle. It had retracted its head and limbs, and Xiaolong didn't know where to start. What is this? Xiaolong looked at the small bottle in his hand. It was a transparent bottle with an unknown blue liquid inside. Xiaolong didn't know what it was, but he didn't open the bottle to see what it was. After all, this thing was found in the lake. Who knew if it was poison or chemicals or something like that? It wouldn't be fun if it was poisoned. At that thought, Xiaolong wanted to throw the bottle away.
Wait.
Lin Yi stopped Xiaolong. What are you doing? You want it? Xiaolong asked. What if it's some kind of chemical explosive that explodes when you throw it? Lin Yi, of course, wouldn't say that he was interested in the bottle in Xiaolong's hand. He frowned and said in an unpleasant tone, Tisk, you're just trying to scare me. Xiaolong said disdainfully, but on the inside, his heart skipped a beat. He did think that there was something bad in the bottle and that it might be chemicals, but he didn't think that it was chemical. What if it really was explosives? Wouldn't it explode when he threw it? At that thought, Xiaolong passed the bottle to Lin Yi as if it was a hot potato. I'll throw it further away. Lin Yi stood up and walked out of the cave, but he didn't throw the bottle away. Instead, he asked, Jiao Lao, why do I feel like this is something good? It really is something good. There's a lot of water energy in it, but I don't know what it is. Jiao Yazi's voice sounded in Lin Yi's ear. As long as it's something good, I'll keep it for now. Lin Yi put the bottle in his pocket and returned to the cave. Xiaolong was roasting the turtle with fire. The turtle's shell was too thick, so Xiaolong threw the whole thing into the fire to roast. He thought that even the thickest shell would be cooked this way. The turtle was thrown into the fire by Xiaolong. It was obviously uncomfortable, and it struggled to get out of the fire. But as soon as it got out, Xiaolong kicked it back into the fire, over and over again. Xiaolong was kicking it like a ball, and he was having a lot of fun. Wang Xinyan frowned. Although turtles were human food, she didn't like the way Xiaolong was abusing it. You can't kick a turtle like a ball, can you? After being kicked into the fire a few times, the turtle's struggles grew weaker and weaker. It couldn't take it anymore. The sound of the fire burning the turtle's shell was a little piercing to the ears. Xinyan turned around, not wanting to see Xiaolong torture the turtle. But at this moment, Lin Yi suddenly felt an incomparably powerful aura suddenly appearing, carrying with it a sense of extreme danger, and the jade on his chest also sent out a warning signal at this moment. The jade's warning signal would only go off when Lin Yi or a member of his team was in danger. Lin Yi trusted the jade's warning signal, and with that sudden feeling, Lin Yi was on high alert. He wanted to pull Xinyan's hand and leave the cave. The cave was small, and they could see the end, but Lin Yi felt that the danger didn't come from inside the cave, but from outside. As a result, Lin Yi wanted to leave the cave as soon as possible. If he was too late, he'd be stuck in the cave. But the danger came too fast. From the moment Lin Yi felt the danger to the moment it came, it was only a few seconds. Lin Yi didn't even have time to pull Xinyan away before the danger arrived. Lin Yi sucked in a cold breath as he looked at the huge monster outside the cave. He had no choice but to pull Xinyan back into the cave, hoping that the monster wouldn't enter the cave and get stuck at the entrance. But Xiaolong didn't seem to sense any danger at all. He was still kicking the little turtle excitedly, having a lot of fun.
Ah.
Xinyan raised her head from Lin Yi's tug, realizing that something wasn't right. She jumped in fright and called out subconsciously, "Lin Yi, roar!" With a roar, a giant claw reached into the hole and sent Xiaolong flying with a single slap. Then, it snatched the little turtle from the fire. Xiaolong wasn't hit directly, but the force of the attack still sent him tumbling, his head hitting the wall of the cave. Blood started to flow, and he didn't know what had happened. He was about to curse when he raised his head, only to be dumbfounded. Chapter 2449. A gigantic turtle was blocking the entrance of the cave, glaring at the half-dead little turtle in front of it with grief and indignation. It roared angrily, "All of you must die. Die with my child." Sky-class spirit beast. Lin Yi was quite annoyed. Xiaolong's luck was off the charts. He caught a little turtle, and now he'd attracted an old sky-class turtle. The turtle paused, not expecting the people in the cave to recognize it as a spirit beast, and a sky-class at that. The reason why he spoke earlier was to scare the cruel humans in the cave, and then kill them. What it didn't expect was that there was a practitioner in the cave. Only a practitioner would be able to tell that it was a sky-class spirit beast. Since you know that I'm a sky-class spirit beast, don't even think about living after crippling my child. The turtle roared. "Come out and die." Xiaolong was scared out of his wits. He didn't expect to attract a big turtle when he caught a little turtle. Of course, that wasn't the main problem. The main problem was that the turtle could speak. "Sky-class turtle, the one who crippled your child is him, the one you just slapped away. This has nothing to do with us. Don't come looking for us." Lin Yi looked at the turtle, feeling a headache coming on. He didn't expect to meet a sky-class spirit beast here. Who knew how long this spirit beast had been training here, but it wasn't surprising. This place was developed into a tourist attraction, but the two mountains were connected by cable cars. No one came to the valley, and no one would have thought that a turtle like this would be hiding at the bottom of the lake. "Lin Yi, you're so evil. You sold me out." Xiaolong's face changed. He didn't expect Lin Yi to say something like that. "You were the one who caught that little turtle. What does that have to do with us?" Lin Yi asked. Xiaolong's face was very ugly. He didn't know what to say. "Roar. I don't care, you're all going to die." The turtle didn't seem to want to hear an explanation. "You guys are together. Look at how he's torturing my child. None of you tried to stop it," So all of you have to die. Haha. Xiaolong heard the turtle's words and looked at Lin Yi's speechless poker face, laughing at Lin Yi's misfortune.
Idiot.
Lin Yi looked at Xiaolong. You won't have to die if I die. Ga. Xiaolong's laughter stopped abruptly as he realized that Lin Yi was dead. Wasn't he going to die as well? Come out and die, the big turtle said impatiently. I'm not going out. Do you think we're stupid? Going out to die? Xiaolong humphed. Not coming out? Fine. Then I'll block the entrance of the cave. Let's see if you can survive. The big turtle roared angrily. It stretched out its claws and continuously slapped the stone wall of the cave. Immediately, there was a loud rumbling sound. Rocks the size of rubber balls came crashing down. If this continued, the entrance of the cave would be destroyed by the big turtle. Even if it couldn't get in, it would suffocate Lin Yi and the others in the cave.
Lin Yi.
This big turtle clearly wasn't an attack-type spirit beast. It was obvious that it wasn't an attack-type spirit beast. Perhaps it was a defense-type or some other type of spirit beast. Although it could smash a lot of rocks with its full strength, this level of attack could only be achieved by a golden-class master. Plus, the fact that the big turtle didn't kill Xiaolong in one swipe was proof of this. It could be said that the big turtle didn't kill Xiaolong directly because it wanted to save the little turtle, but Xiaolong didn't seem to be heavily injured. It was obvious that the big turtle wasn't that strong. This made Lin Yi sigh in relief. He was afraid that the big turtle wouldn't say anything and just come in and kill them. You're the one who caused this. Lin Yi glared at Xiaolong. Lin Yi, don't blame me if you don't think of a way. We'll all die. Xiaolong could only put all his hopes on Lin Yi. Lin Yi was speechless. But he still said helplessly to the big turtle, Stop. I can save your child.
You?
Save my child? The big turtle paused for a second, but it humphed coldly. How is that possible? My child is heavily injured, and he hasn't even reached golden class yet. I can't even do anything to him. Don't try to lie to me. If you want your child to die, then keep talking. Keep talking nonsense. Lin Yi said. Can you really save my child? The big turtle hesitated. Won't you know if I can or not if I try? Lin Yi shrugged.
I can go out and heal your child.
If I can heal him, then you let us go. If not, then kill me. How about that? Sure. The big turtle hesitated. Lin Yi's request wasn't fair. It was their people who crippled the little turtle, and it was normal for them to heal it. It could still punish Lin Yi and the others, but it couldn't heal the little turtle at this point. It could only put its hopes on Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't want to help Xiaolong, but the big turtle thought they were on the same side. Lin Yi saving Xiaolong was equivalent to saving himself. He couldn't care less and started walking out of the cave. Xinyan was startled, afraid that the big turtle wouldn't keep its promise. She wanted to stop Lin Yi, but when she thought about what Lin Yi had decided, there was no way she could stop him. Plus, what else could Lin Yi do if he didn't go out? Was the big turtle going to let them go? Xinyan looked at Xiaolong with disdain. Coward, causing trouble and not taking responsibility for it. Lin Yi walked out of the cave slowly, and the big turtle didn't attack him. It put the little turtle down and asked coldly, What are you waiting for? Healing? Lin Yi nodded and sat cross-legged on the ground. He picked up the little turtle and started using the second stage of the art of dragon mastery to heal it. Lin Yi didn't come out because he wanted to take a risk, but because he had a general understanding of the big turtle's strength. It wouldn't be easy for it to kill Lin Yi. An Earth-class mid-phase peak. The big turtle saw through Lin Yi's strength when Lin Yi was using his arts. It was a little surprised spirit beasts were rare, but there weren't many human practitioners. The big turtle had lived for thousands of years, and it had seen a lot of things. It was normal for rich people to have a few golden-class bodyguards, and some mafia bosses or robbers could be golden-class practitioners as well. But those were rare, and mystic class and above were rare. Only hidden houses would have them, and earth class was even rarer. Chapter 2450. Lin Yi didn't answer the turtle's question, continuing to heal the little turtle. It didn't take long, especially since the little turtle was only burnt. Lin Yi didn't have any problems healing it, especially since it was only half dead from the burn. Of course, other than healing the little turtle, Lin Yi wouldn't help it level up. He didn't have much of a relationship with the big turtle, and he didn't want to reveal too much in front of Xiaolong. Healing spirit beasts wasn't a big deal. Lin Yi was a miracle doctor, after all, and Xiaolong knew a thing or two about it. Lin Yi was in a blind spot outside the cave, and he couldn't see what was going on outside. If Xiaolong asked, Lin Yi would just say that he used Miracle Dr. Guan's special medicine. There was no need to say anything else. At first, the big turtle was doubtful that Lin Yi could heal the little turtle. After all, the little turtle was almost cooked. How was he supposed to heal it? But as Lin Yi's practitioner's art circulated, the big turtle's eyes flashed with doubt, followed by excitement. It could sense that the little turtle's injuries were getting better. Although it couldn't see the little turtle's injuries, it could sense that the little turtle's life force was gradually strengthening. This calmed the anger in the big turtle's heart. It's done. Lin Yi put the little turtle on the ground and turned to the big turtle. If you want revenge, then go find that guy from before. If you don't want revenge, then please leave. The big turtle looked into the cave and hesitated. It picked up the little turtle and walked slowly towards the lake. Lin Yi noticed that the lake's ice had been broken, and the big turtle's nest was at the bottom of the lake. He watched as the two left before turning back to the cave. Let's go, he said to Xinyan and Xiaolong. Ah, okay. Xiaolong naturally nodded in agreement. Xinyan was a bit confused. Lin Yi had already sent the big turtle away. Why did he still want to leave? But since it was Lin Yi's request, she didn't hesitate and nodded, following Lin Yi and Xiaolong out of the cave. Where are we going? Xiaolong walked out of the cave and was hit by the cold wind. He didn't want to leave again, but he remembered how scary the turtle was. He shuddered, not daring to stay any longer. How do you plan to leave? Lin Yi frowned and asked, according to your plan, how are you going to get back if you fall from the cable cars? Xiaolong looked at Lin Yi, then at Xinyan, a little embarrassed. I'll tell Right Panhu to bring a helicopter to pick us up in 2 days. Lin Yi was speechless and said, let's leave this place first. Let's go quickly. I think the big turtle will catch up with us soon. Isn't it done? Why did it go back on its words? Xiaolong asked carefully. I don't know what was in that bottle, but it might be the turtle's treasure. I've lost it. If it remembers, do you think it'll come looking for us? Lin Yi said.
Fuck.
Why did you throw it away? You're looking for trouble. Xiaolong said, a little displeased. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He glared at him and said, you picked it up, didn't you? Xiaolong remembered that if he didn't bring the little turtle and the broken bottle back, there wouldn't be so much trouble. He quickly shut his mouth, not daring to say anything else. Call Right Panhu and tell him to send a helicopter to us immediately. Lin Yi said. I don't have a phone. I got robbed. Xiaolong smiled bitterly. Here. Lin Yi gave his phone to Xiaolong. In order to save his life, Xiaolong didn't dare play any tricks. He called Right Panhu directly. After a long time, he remembered that Right Panhu's phone was stolen as well. He had no choice but to call Boss Bai and hope that they were together. Lin Yi? How are you guys? Boss Bai was relieved when he got Lin Yi's call. He just got the news that Xiaolong and Xinyan's cable car had crashed, and Lin Yi had jumped down as well. Boss Bai was confident in Lin Yi's Earth-class skills, but he couldn't help but worry about Xinyan and Xiaolong's situation. He wanted to ask for help immediately, but Right Panhu stopped him, saying that Xiaolong was definitely fine and that he and Xinyan were having a romantic time, so he didn't need to worry about them. Boss Bai furrowed his brows and asked what had happened. Although he was angry that Xiaolong was risking his life for something like this, he breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that the person in question was fine. He scolded Right Panhu and told him that if he didn't pass his exams, he'd be fired. This wasn't a school, but Boss Bai was still very angry at Right Panhu for helping Xiaolong. He didn't care about the danger at all. Master Bai, it's Xiaolong. Xiaolong said with a sob. Master Bai, is right Panhu nearby? Right Panhu?
He's here.
Boss Bai passed the phone to Right Panhu, not wanting to get involved in this. Kong bro, what's wrong? Right Panhu was a little upset. He could have just lied to Boss Bai, but Lin Yi had jumped down as well, and Lin Yi must have noticed that something was wrong, so he couldn't hide it anymore. He had to tell the truth. Lil bro you, send a helicopter to pick us up. We're in trouble, Xiaolong said urgently.
Okay.
Right Panhu paused. He didn't know what the trouble was, but Xiaolong seemed to be in a hurry, so he quickly agreed. After agreeing, Panhu Right went to the security department of the resort to send a helicopter to pick up Xiaolong. This was the agreement he made with the resort the last time he came to the resort. If the cable car fell, they wouldn't be in a hurry to find him. They could only wait for him to come and send a helicopter to look for him. But this time, there was an accident. Right Panhu entered the security room and saw Su Lung and his two underlings, who were screaming and bandaging their wounds. The security guards from before were there as well. Panhu frowned and ignored them. Instead, he turned to another security guard sitting at the desk and said, Captain Sun, according to our previous agreement, send a helicopter to look for my friend now. The security captain was about to agree to Right Panhu's request when he heard an angry shout. Chapter 2451. Lung Su yelled, No. No one is allowed to go. Why send a helicopter? Throw this kid out for me. Su Lungzi suffered a hidden loss. He had just found his uncle to stand up for him, but after his uncle heard that Yu Panhu was hiding the Yu family's background, he hesitated for a moment and let Su Lungzi endure it. Su Lungzi felt very stifled. This ski resort was his family's territory. In the past, it was always others who were at a disadvantage. This time, it was his turn. Naturally, he didn't want to. Captain Sun heard Lung Su's words and was in a difficult position. On one side was the general manager, and on the other side was Lung Su. These two people were asking him to go east and west. He had a headache, but he remembered that the general manager was the most powerful person in the resort, so he said to Lung Su, Lung bro, this is what the general manager said. What do you think? Isn't my uncle afraid that Fire Wolfgang will blame him? It's okay. My cousin is good friends with the person in charge of Fire Wolfgang. If something happens, I'll talk to him. Lung Su roared hysterically. Captain Sun, tell him to leave. Otherwise, I'll tell my cousin, and you'll leave with him. Captain Sun heard Lung Su's words and fell silent. He knew that Lung Su had a cousin who was also a powerful character. He was the sworn brother of the newly promoted Fire Wolfgang's branch leader in the province. That was why he hesitated. Panhu Yu frowned. He didn't think that something like this would happen just because Xiaolong had offended this rash Su earlier. He didn't want to argue with these people anymore. He could see that with Lung Su here, it was impossible for them to send a helicopter. He could only ask for help from his family. After leaving the security room, Panhu Right found a phone at the service desk of the resort and called his family, Hidden House U. At this moment, the short robber had returned to the Hidden House U. He was holding the body of the tall robber in his arms. His face was full of grief and anger. Grandpa Yu heard that the short robber had returned. Just as he was about to ask him if he had succeeded in his mission, he suddenly saw the corpse of the tall robber in his hand. His expression froze. Shorty, you, right househead, that Lin Yi is really powerful. Although he's only an Earth class mid-peak, he killed Gao Zi with one slap and seriously injured me. I'm going into seclusion to recuperate. Whoever wants to take this mission in the future can take it. I'm not taking it. With that said, the short robber placed the body of the tall robber on the ground and quickly ran back to his courtyard to prepare for seclusion. He was a guest of the Yu family, not Old Master Yu's subordinate, so his attitude toward Old Master Yu wasn't very good. Of course, this matter couldn't be blamed on Old Master Yu. He had already told you about Lin Yi's strength. You had accepted this mission because you coveted the natural treasures for cultivation. If you died or got injured, you could only blame it on your bad luck. Therefore, this matter was in the past. The short robber could only sullenly go back to heal himself. Old Master Yu, on the other hand, was scared out of his wits. Did Lin Yi really have the ability to fight a Sky class? He actually heavily injured a Sky class early phase with one slap, and killed an Earth class late phase peak with one slap? It seemed like Lin Yi had mercy on Elder Bai before. Now that it was the turn of these two disguised robbers, he didn't give them any face at all. Other than shock, old Master Yu's heart was filled with fear. If Lin Yi was really this strong, then it wouldn't be a problem for him to wipe out the Yu family. Although he was a Sky class master, he wasn't even as strong as the other guests. His cultivation level as a Sky class alchemist wasn't particularly strong. He definitely couldn't mess with Lin Yi anymore. This was old Master Yu's first thought. He subconsciously wanted to call Yu Panhu. He wanted to tell him to stay away from Lin Yi and not get killed by Lin Yi. However, the phone rang first. Hello. Old Master Yu took a deep breath and picked up the phone. Grandpa, I'm Yu Panhu, Yu Panhu said hurriedly. Grandpa, the plan from before failed. Xiaolong offended the local tyrant of the resort. As he spoke, Yu Panhu told him what happened. Let's not talk about this first. Let me ask you, how is Lin Yi so strong? He actually killed an Earth class late phase peak master and injured a Sky class early phase master? Old Master Yu changed the topic and hurriedly asked. This. Yu Panhu's heart skipped a beat. As expected, the two cultivator robbers were the ones sent by his family, and the ones from before were the real robbers. Thinking of this, the corner of Yu Panhu's mouth twitched. He was really unlucky to encounter this kind of thing. However, while Yu Panhu was shocked by Lin Yi's strength, he was also worried about Xiaolong's situation, so he quickly said, Grandpa, let's not talk about this first. Xiaolong is very anxious over there. It seems like something big happened. The phone he used is also Lin Yi's. Using Lin Yi's phone? Could it be that Lin Yi deliberately forced him to make this call? Old Master Yu also knew about Yu Panhu and Xiaolong's plan, but Old Master Yu was astute. He thought of the original Romantic Valley trip. With Lin Yi's participation, Lin Yi was naturally anxious to go back. In this way, this phone call might have been made by Lin Yi. It's hard to say, but with Lin Yi's participation, this matter is meaningless. Lin Yi is so dangerous. If we don't send a helicopter to get them up as soon as possible, what if Lin Yi does something bad to Xiaolong? Yu Panhu said. You're right. Old Master Yu nodded and said, then I'll send a helicopter over as soon as possible. Okay, then I'll wait here. Yu Panhu nodded. Forget it. We'll talk about Lin Yi's matter when you come back. Old Master Yu felt that the Yu family should adjust their strategy towards Lin Yi. At least before the Heavenly Elixir sect expressed their stance, the Yu family should try their best to avoid direct conflict with Lin Yi. This guy was too strong. After Xiaolong finished the phone call, it had been 20 minutes. Lin Yi didn't see a helicopter flying over. He immediately frowned. Logically speaking, with Yu Panhu's execution efficiency, it should be enough to borrow a helicopter from the resort and fly over from the top of the mountain in 20 minutes. Moreover, these were all prepared in advance. Why is it so slow? Didn't you guys already arrange to rent a helicopter? Lin Yi glanced at Xiaolong and asked coldly. P.S. Very Pure will be ending in April. Due to the plot of the ending, School Beauty's update speed will be slowed down. 12 chapters a day, but there will be no breaks. Very Pure will return to normal after the end of the book. School Beauty's physical book will be released on March 5th. Readers who like it can buy it as a memento. To be continued. Chapter 2452. I don't know. We did tell them, but who knew they wouldn't come? Xiaolong was quite worried as well. His head was covered in cold sweat. Lin Yi said that if the turtle found out that the bottle was gone, it might come looking for trouble. He wouldn't be able to escape then. Lin Yi was a practitioner, and he could escape with Xinyan. Xiaolong wasn't a practitioner. So, what if the turtle caught him? With that thought, Xiaolong said, why don't we run in that direction first, then call Tiger Right and ask him to find us there? That works. Lin Yi nodded. He was also afraid that the turtle would come looking for trouble. And so, they walked quickly in the direction Tiger Right pointed to. Tiger Right, on the other hand, took out Lin Yi's phone and called Boss Bai again. Master Bai, it's Xiaolong. Can you talk to Tiger Right? Xiaolong said hurriedly. Boss Bai frowned and passed the phone to Tiger Right. He already knew that the resort didn't want to send a helicopter, and he also knew the reason behind it. He thought that Xiaolong was too good at causing trouble. Boss Bai thought that Tiger Right was a good student and let him listen in on class, but he didn't expect him to be such an idiot. Boss Bai was furious and didn't want to talk to him anymore. Big bro calm, don't worry. The resort won't send a helicopter because of our conflict with Su Lung. I've already called for one from House U, and it should be here in 20 minutes. Just wait a bit more. Tiger Right explained after taking the phone, and then asked intentionally, is it Lin Yi who wants to harm you? Or force you? Tiger Right said this to ruin Boss Bai's good impression of Lin Yi. Boss Bai taking Lin Yi as a disciple and teaching him about elixir refining made Tiger Right very jealous. With Lin Yi in front of him, Tiger Right couldn't replace him. It was impossible for the right coiling tiger to replace him. Only by destroying Lin Yi's impression in Boss Bai's mind could he be promoted smoothly. However, Boss Bai didn't seem to care about his words at all. He didn't even look at him, much to Coiling Tiger's disappointment. In fact, Boss Bai heard Coiling Tiger's words. It was normal for Lin Yi to threaten Xiaolong. If he didn't threaten Xiaolong and tell him to contact the helicopter, he wouldn't be staying in the valley with him. Wasn't there something wrong with that? No. We ran into a water monster, Xiaolong said. Suddenly, he heard a loud splash behind him. He subconsciously looked back and saw the big turtle rushing out of the lake again. Not good, let's go. Lin Yi grabbed Xinyan's hand and ran, looking at the turtle's angry face. He must have discovered that the small bottle was missing. Lin Yi was starting to regret not leaving sooner, waiting for Tiger Right's helicopter to come pick him up. He'd been waiting for a long time now, but Tiger Right's helicopter hadn't arrived yet. He waited for a long time, but because Xiaolong offended Stun Su, the resort didn't send a helicopter. Tiger Right's voice wasn't loud, but in the quiet valley, his words still reached Lin Yi's ears through the phone. Roar!
Don't run.
Stop right there. Give me back the ice crystal. The big turtle roared and chased after Xiaolong and the others. Lil bro the water monster is catching up. Let's talk later. Get the helicopter to the north and wait for us there. With that, Xiaolong hung up the phone and chased after Lin Yi and Xinyan, sprinting away, roar. The big turtle didn't expect these people to run so quickly. It jumped out of the lake and chased after them. Lin Yi, wait. Wait for me. Xiaolong's face was ashen, and he was shaking with fear. He was shocked to see Lin Yi and Xinyan running so fast. Lin Yi couldn't even take care of himself. He wasn't in the mood to deal with Xiaolong.
Roar. Die.
When the big turtle saw that the three of them didn't stop, it was sure that they had stolen the ice crystal of turtle saliva. It immediately became furious and quickly chased after them. But as big as the turtle was, it was still a turtle after all. It couldn't crawl that fast, and so it was able to keep up with the group's running speed. It might even be a little faster than them. Just as it was about to catch up to Xiaolong, the big turtle swung its claw. It didn't hit Xiaolong directly, but the wind from the claw still hit Xiaolong's back. Xiaolong fell to the ground in a daze. Help, Lin Yi, help me. Xiaolong cried for help after falling to the ground, hoping that Lin Yi would give him a helping hand. Xiaolong endured the pain and crawled up from the ground as fast as he could. His body was pretty good normally, and he did pretty well in sports back in university. But he'd been beaten up a few times today, and he hadn't eaten anything to replenish his stamina. He'd used up most of his energy, and the fall made it hard for him to walk. The big turtle was getting closer and closer, and the claw was about to reach him again. Xiaolong yelled, "Stop. Don't chase me. That bottle was left by the guy in front of us. It has nothing to do with me." The big turtle laughed at Xiaolong's shameless words. "I've never seen someone as cunning as you. You hurt my child before, and I said that you'll all die. I don't care who touched my turtle spit ice crystal. You'll all have to take responsibility." Xiaolong saw that he couldn't convince the big turtle and that the claw was about to reach him. In the face of death, his desire to escape exploded, and he used all his strength to run forward. He managed to catch up to Lin Yi in a few steps, putting some distance between him and the big turtle. But it was all thanks to Xiaolong's shameless words that the turtle paused and slowed down its speed. Otherwise, the turtle would have slapped him right there and then. Even so, Xiaolong didn't dare let his guard down. He knew that he was at his limit, and he wouldn't be able to continue running. He begged Lin Yi with a sad face. "Lin Yi, save me if you save me. I'll ignore what happened between you and Xinyan, how about it? I promise I won't pursue this anymore." Xiaolong's words were still very artistic at this point. He didn't say that he wanted to cancel the engagement with Xinyan, but that he'd ignore what happened between Lin Yi and Xinyan. It was obvious that he was looking for an excuse to go back on his words. To be continued. Chapter 2453. How could Lin Yi not tell? But Xinyan didn't think that much at a time like this. Hearing that Xiaolong was willing to use this as a bargaining chip, she was overjoyed. She turned to Lin Yi. "Lin Yi, will you agree to it?" Lin Yi looked at the expectant Xinyan beside him. His heart skipped a beat. Xinyan's feelings were very obvious, and her words had betrayed her. But Lin Yi was getting more and more confused. Why would Xinyan care so much about her engagement with Xiaolong? Technically, it wasn't a big deal to break the engagement, was it? All right. But since Xinyan was looking forward to it, Lin Yi didn't want to disappoint her. As for Xiaolong, Lin Yi wouldn't really leave him be. After all, they were classmates. Even if Lin Yi wanted to do something to him, he wouldn't do it this way. It wasn't a good thing for Boss White if a student died during the winter tour. Lin Yi, naturally, wouldn't make things difficult for him. And so, Lin Yi reached out with his right hand and hugged Xinyan, pulling her against his chest. Ah. Xinyan didn't expect Lin Yi to suddenly hug her. She lowered her head shyly. Her heart was beating fast, but she didn't dare raise her head to look at Lin Yi and Xiaolong. Of course, Lin Yi wasn't paying attention to Xinyan's situation. His other hand reached out to grab Xiaolong, who was running behind him. As for Xiaolong, even if Lin Yi wanted to save him, he wouldn't let him off easy. Xiaolong relaxed a little when Lin Yi pulled him back, but the next moment, something cruel happened that he didn't expect. Lin Yi increased his speed after grabbing Xiaolong. Xinyan was in Lin Yi's arms, so she wasn't affected. Xiaolong, on the other hand, was unluckier. He couldn't keep up with Lin Yi's speed, and Lin Yi dragged him forward. He fell on his butt and was dragged forward by Lin Yi. The ground of the valley was smooth and covered with ice and snow, but still bumped into the rocks on the snowy ground. After all, no matter how smooth the valley floor was, it was impossible for there to be no rocks on it. Xiaolong was in trouble. Ouch! Xiaolong's cries were especially piercing in the valley. Very soon, his butt was covered in cuts from the stones on the ground. The wounds from before were mostly healed by Miracle Dr. Kang's golden creation medicine, but now they were being cut open again, adding more wounds on top of the previous ones. But Xiaolong was in great pain, but he knew that Lin Yi was doing this on purpose. If Lin Yi could carry Xinyan, it didn't mean that he couldn't carry Xiaolong as well. Lin Yi was a practitioner, after all. But it was already good enough that Lin Yi wasn't carrying him. Xiaolong was afraid that Lin Yi would abandon him, so he could only endure it. When he couldn't hold it in any longer, he looked at the big turtle chasing after him and thought of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, so he held back. Slowly. Lin Yi increased the distance between him and the turtle. Lin Yi's qigong was good, and without Xinyan and Xiaolong holding him back, he didn't need to worry about the turtle catching up. The big turtle, on the other hand, let out an angry roar as it watched Lin Yi and the others getting further and further away. It knew that it wouldn't be able to catch up. When it saw Lin Yi carrying one person and pulling another, it knew that it had to give up. There were practitioners here. It really couldn't take advantage of them. Lin Yi's guess was correct. The turtle's strength lay in defense, not offense. Even if Lin Yi was a sky class, he couldn't do anything to it. But it couldn't catch up to Lin Yi. It had no choice but to swallow this loss. It wasn't that it didn't have the ice crystal turtle saliva. It still had some, but it was very precious. This small bottle would take the turtle tens of years to refine. This was the crystallization of its strength. It wasn't very useful to the big turtle, but it was very useful to the little turtle. The little turtle could use this to train. The big turtle still had some left, but something as precious, as this was something that could increase its strength. It didn't want to give it to Lin Yi that easily, but it couldn't get it back now. There was nothing it could do. Don't let me see you again. The big turtle roared helplessly. Lin Yi heard the turtle's roar, and he felt nervous for no reason. This was actually a sign of guilt. Lin Yi did take the ice crystal turtle saliva bottle, so in theory, Xiaolong was the scapegoat for him. Although Xiaolong was the one who started it all, Xiaolong was the one who found the bottle, so Lin Yi still felt a little grateful toward Xiaolong. This was also the reason why he didn't abandon Xiaolong. Lin Yi, can you let me go now? That monster isn't chasing us anymore, my butt. Xiaolong was almost crying from the pain. His butt didn't seem to belong to him anymore.
Oh.
Lin Yi was in the middle of sprinting when he heard Xiaolong's words. Xiaolong, on the other hand, leaned backwards due to the inertia, and the back of his head hit the ground with a clang, hitting the big bump on the ground. The pain made him grit his teeth in pain. Lin Yi, you did that on purpose, didn't you? Xiaolong got up from the ground and turned around, glaring at Lin Yi. You told me to let you go. Lin Yi curled his lips, not caring. Xiaolong was angry, but he didn't let it show. Lin Yi was his savior, after all, and he wasn't that ungrateful. But the more he looked at Xinyan in Lin Yi's arms, the angrier he got. It was just that Xiaolong had promised that he'd turn a blind eye to what happened between Lin Yi and Xinyan. He wanted to go back on his words when he got back, but it hadn't been that long, and he didn't have the thick skin to deny it. He could only pinch his nose and accept it. Lin Yi, can you put me down now? Xinyan's heart was beating like crazy, but she felt a little better when she remembered that they were running for their lives. Now that they were safe, she felt a little embarrassed. Okay. Lin Yi put Xinyan down. It wasn't that he wanted to take advantage of her, but that he'd forgotten that she was in his arms. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little regretful after putting her down. He'd been so focused on running and thinking about the ice crystal that he'd forgotten about the beauty in his arms. He only came back to his senses after Xinyan reminded him, but he didn't think about taking advantage of her. He could have trained while running. To be continued. Chapter 2454. Xinyan felt shy and happy at the same time when she saw the flash of disappointment on Lin Yi's face. To be honest, if Xiaolong wasn't standing there, she wouldn't have left that warm hug. The feeling of that embrace reminded Xinyan of those cold nights during military training, the days and nights they spent together in the wild training. While she was lost in thought, the sound of a helicopter came from the sky. Lin Yi let out a breath of relief. He didn't feel any danger anymore, and the turtle should have retreated, but who knew if it would come back again? Furthermore, since the big turtle was a heaven-rank spirit beast, could there be other spirit beasts in the valley? There were 2 sky-class spirit beasts in Wulonghout Mountains. Here, I'm here. Xiaolong felt like he had just survived a disaster when he saw the helicopter. He waved his hands, trying to get the people in the helicopter to see him. Lin Yi curled his lips and looked at Xiaolong. With his voice, the people in the helicopter couldn't hear him at all. As for him, even if he didn't wave, the people in the helicopter would be able to see him. The helicopter got closer and closer, and a ladder was pulled down from the helicopter. It was placed vertically at the bottom of the valley. Right Coiling Tiger's voice came from the loudspeaker. Big Bro Kong, get on the helicopter. Xiaolong was very excited. He subconsciously wanted to grab the ladder and climb up, but Lin Yi grabbed him back. Wait a bit. Let Xinyan go first, you go last. Although Lin Yi was a practitioner, this valley wasn't something that could be climbed easily. Putting aside the fact that the cliffs were covered in snow and ice, even in the summer, there weren't any footholds. Climbing up was an extremely difficult task. Lin Yi didn't have Rock Candy's amazing qigong, so he couldn't fly up. So Lin Yi decided to let Xiaolong go last. Otherwise, this kid would just take a helicopter and escape. That would be a little fucked up. Oh. Xiaolong was a little disappointed, but he understood what Lin Yi was worried about. He really didn't want to leave Lin Yi behind. After all, Lin Yi had saved his life once, or more accurately, twice. It was just that the first time Lin Yi saved his life was for self-preservation. As a result, Xiaolong couldn't leave Lin Yi behind no matter how much he wanted to. Besides, if he and Yu Coiling Tiger went back without Lin Yi, how could he explain to Boss Bai? Xinyan was a little scared as she looked at the wobbly ladder. She didn't dare go up on her own, but the ladder could only fit one person at a time. She couldn't let Lin Yi hold her up. Of course, she could also let Lin Yi protect her under her body, but she had to let Lin Yi face her buttocks. It would only make Xinyan more embarrassed. Gritting her teeth, Xinyan grabbed the ladder and climbed up. She was a strong girl. She was scared, but she held on for a while. Lin Yi wasn't worried. He could catch Xinyan even if she fell. Lin Yi was confident that he could catch Xinyan even if she fell from the top of the mountain, let alone the height of the helicopter. Finally, Xinyan reached the helicopter safely. Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. He quickly stepped on the ladder and got on the helicopter. Xiaolong, on the other hand, was the last to get on the plane. His face was pale, and he nodded with lingering fear when he saw Tiger right. "Brother Yu, there's a big water monster in the valley. It scared me." "Big water monster? What's that?" Yu Coiling Tiger paused. "Sky-class spirit beast. We almost died," Lin Yi said faintly. "Hiss. A heaven-rank spirit beast?" Right Coiling Tiger was startled, and a look of horror flashed across his face. This spirit beast didn't have anything to do with Lin Yi. In fact, it was an enemy. Lin Yi didn't need to keep it a secret. As for whether or not the hidden house you would dare to provoke this spirit beast, it wasn't within Lin Yi's consideration. "If House Yu has the guts, you can go and catch it," Lin Yi said. Yu Coiling Tiger's expression was uglier than crying. "Sky-class spirit beast? Forget it. Who dares to provoke it? Besides, there's no use in catching it. It can't protect House Yu." "Oh? Sky-class spirit beasts are very precious. House Yu doesn't need it?" Lin Yi asked calmly. "Even if it's precious, you have to be alive to catch it." Yu Coiling Tiger shrugged and didn't say anything else. However, Lin Yi felt that Coiling Tiger was implying something. Golden and Mystic-class spirit beasts were very popular, but Coiling Tiger didn't care about Sky-class spirit beasts at all. He was very indifferent, which made Lin Yi feel strange. Of course, what Right Coiling Tiger said might be true. It was very difficult for a heaven-rank spirit beast to recognize a master. Even if one used a special contract to turn it into a puppet spirit beast, it would still be impossible. Comparatively speaking, it was easier to capture yellow rank and profound rank spirit beasts. What Lin Yi didn't know was that Sky-class spirit beasts were rare in the common world, but the Hidden House of Yu was one of the few who knew about them. It wasn't hard for them to find Sky-class spirit beasts. If it really was as he said, one would need to be alive to catch one. The helicopter flew directly back to the resort and stopped in the open space. Lin Yi, Xinyan, Xiaolong, and Coiling Tiger got off the helicopter. Coiling Tiger gave the pilot a few instructions, and the helicopter slowly left the resort and flew back to the Hidden House Yu. Xiaolong wasn't in a very good mood. None of the plans he'd come up with were executed perfectly. Not only that, but he'd also gotten himself injured all over. To him and Tiger Right, this was a classic case of losing a wife and a soldier. His fiancée was hugged by Lin Yi, and one of House Yu's underlings was dead, and one was injured. This proverb was tailor-made for the two of them. The ancients were wise indeed. They could even predict the future, Xiaolong thought gloomily. Entering the resort with Wang Xinyan, Boss Bai was already anxiously waiting in the lobby of the resort. Seeing that Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan had returned safely, his furrowed brows relaxed. He had a good impression of Lin Yi and had the intention of training him to be his successor. However, Lin Yi seemed to have some obstacles in the field of alchemy, which made Boss Bai hesitate. Boss Bai was best at refining elixirs, and his medical skills were only auxiliary. It could even be said that he wasn't as good as Lin Yi, so if Lin Yi only learned medicine, he wouldn't need to learn it. It didn't matter if Lin Yi learned it or not, but refining elixirs was very special. Boss Bai felt that Lin Yi's situation was very special, and he could only find a solution slowly. No matter what, Boss Bai didn't want anything to happen to Lin Yi. Lin Yi, how are you? Are you alright? Boss Bai asked, but he didn't look at Xiaolong. To be continued. Chapter 2455. Even though he was miserable, Boss Bai automatically ignored him and turned to Wang Xinyan. Wang Xinyan, are you alright? I'm fine, Mr. Bai. Thank you for the trouble, Lin Yi said with a smile. I'm fine as well. Wang Xinyan nodded. That's good. I've already arranged the rooms. Lin Yi, you, and Bai Weidua will share a room. Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing will share a room. This is your room card. Boss Bai handed the room card to Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan. Xiaolong knew that what he did today made Boss Bai very angry. Although he didn't say it out loud, he still went upstairs with Panhu. He shared a room with Panhu, so he didn't need Boss Bai to give him the room card. Let's go back first. We'll have dinner later. There are still some activities scheduled in the evening. Take this opportunity to rest, Boss Bai said to Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan. And, okay. Lin Yi nodded and took the elevator with Wang Xinyan. Lin Yi, don't make things too awkward with Xiaolong. In the elevator, Wang Xinyan was silent for a long time before she spoke.
Oh?
Lin Yi was slightly stunned. He didn't quite understand why Wang Xinyan would suddenly say something like this, but since she said it like this, she must have her concerns. What confused Lin Yi was that Wang Xinyan clearly didn't like Xiaolong. Even after this incident, her gaze towards Xiaolong was filled with disgust. Why would she plead for Xiaolong now? However, Lin Yi wasn't stupid. He thought about it again. If Wang Xinyan wasn't pleading for Xiaolong, then she must be thinking from his perspective. In other words, Wang Xinyan didn't want him to make things too awkward with Xiaolong out of consideration for him.
But why?
Xiaolong wasn't a practitioner. His backing was only the hidden house Yu. Today, Lin Yi wasn't even afraid of beating up two masters from the hidden house Yu. Why would he be afraid of offending the hidden house Yu? Chapter 2456. Why did you turn around right after I put on my clothes? Xinyan felt that it was too much of a coincidence. Lin Yi scratched his head. He didn't know how to explain it. Lin Yi bro didn't peek at Xian Yensis from the mirror. Han Jingjing said without raising her head as she fiddled with the tablet in her hand. Lin Yi wanted to strangle Han Jingjing. She didn't even raise her head. How did she find out? Only then did Xinyan notice that there was a mirror behind Lin Yi. That meant that Lin Yi could still see her in the mirror. She glared at Lin Yi.
What's going on?
Xinyan's face twitched as she stared at Lin Yi. What the hell? Lin Yi coughed awkwardly and changed the topic. Bai Weidua and Himewa took the room, and I didn't have anywhere else to go, so I came.
Oh.
Xinyan said with an oath as she sat on the bed, feeling a little awkward as well. Han Jingjing just had to sit there and continue drawing after that, leaving the two of them with nothing to talk about at all. Are you training? Xinyan asked, breaking the awkwardness.
Sure.
Lin Yi nodded and sat on the bed. Xinyan sat beside Lin Yi quietly. After some thought, she pulled down the jacket she'd just put on, revealing the thermal underwear underneath. Lin Yi could see her perfect body, and Xinyan didn't have anything to be embarrassed about. He'd already seen her naked, so what was there to be afraid of now? Lin Yi closed his eyes and started channeling the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, and Xinyan cooperated fully. She sat by Lin Yi's side, not moving an inch. The two of them had gotten to this point, and things were getting out of Wang Xinyan's control. The only thing she could do was to help Lin Yi train as soon as possible. She wanted Lin Yi to reach a whole new level, and as long as they weren't afraid of the Sky Elixir sect, she and Lin Yi could be together. Xinyan, can I hug you? Lin Yi realized that he was a little distracted today. He kept getting distracted when he was training, and he smelled Wang Xinyan's fragrance. He wanted to take the next step. Xinyan froze. She hadn't expected Lin Yi to make such an unreasonable request. But Xinyan couldn't very well say no. She glanced at the nonchalant Han Jingjing not too far away. Then, he snorted softly with a nasal voice. It was unknown whether he agreed or disagreed. Lin Yi smiled when he heard Xinyan's whimper. He reached out and pulled Xinyan into his embrace. Xinyan's body trembled visibly. Her breathing became a little rapid. Although Lin Yi had hugged her during the military training before, that was when he was asleep, and it was very cold in the middle of the night. Lin Yi seemed to be doing it on purpose. Although Lin Yi was doing it for cultivation, in the end, was his lust more important or his cultivation more important? Wang Xinyan didn't know. Lin Yi could feel Xinyan's body stiffening, and he didn't want to push his luck. He didn't do anything inappropriate after hugging Xinyan and started to train like he was supposed to. Lin Yi's attitude made Xinyan sigh in relief and happy. It seemed that Lin Yi was really training, and he wasn't blinded by lust and trying to take advantage of her. Xinyan was quite happy that Lin Yi was motivated to train. After all, the sooner Lin Yi reached the top of the Sky Elixir sect, the sooner the window paper between the two of them would be broken. Otherwise, Xinyan wouldn't have agreed to anything before that. She didn't want Xiaolong to contact Kong Mingming and make a move on Lin Yi. Although Lin Yi was closer to him now, Xiaolong had personally promised not to pursue the matter. Of course, he had no choice but to ask for help from Lin Yi, but Xiaolong wouldn't go back on his word so soon. In the blink of an eye, it was dinner time. Boss Bai asked the service desk to call every room to inform the students to go to the dining hall for dinner. The call was picked up by Han Jingjing. After answering the phone, she put down the tablet and said to Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan, "Lin Yi bro, Xinyan sis, the service desk is calling for dinner." "Oh, okay." Lin Yi came back to reality from his training and let go of Xinyan. Xinyan was a little nervous and shy before, but Lin Yi didn't do anything to embarrass her, so she relaxed. It was a little comfortable being hugged by Lin Yi, and she almost fell asleep in the end. She opened her eyes in a daze and sat up. "Ah, let's go eat then." The three of them walked out of the room, and they saw Bai Weidua and Himeiwe walking out of the room. Himeiwe's face was still red, and they didn't know what the two were doing in the room. Bai Weidua saw Lin Yi and quickly ran over. "Lin Yi bro, kid. You and Meiwe are together?" Lin Yi looked at Bai Weidua's excited face and asked in a low voice. Not yet, but I kissed her," Bai Weidua said excitedly. "I didn't think that there would be that kind of show on the cable TV in this resort. Meiwe and I couldn't help ourselves after watching it for a while, but Meiwe didn't let me go further." Haha, Lin Yi patted Bai Weidua's shoulder with a smile. "Teacher Bai agreed to the two of you? Grandpa didn't disapprove of it." "I'll just watch it," Bai Weidua said. Lin Yi didn't say anything. Himeiwe gave Lin Yi the feeling that she was very smart. Bai Weidua wasn't stupid, but he was a bit more down to earth. He didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse for him to be with Himeiwe. Xiaolong and Right Coiling Tiger also came out, but Xiaolong was dressed up. Not only did he take a shower, his hair was combed neatly, and he changed into a new set of leather clothes. What surprised Lin Yi was that the injuries on his face were all healed. But Lin Yi was only slightly surprised. With a pill bottle like Right Coiling Tiger beside him, getting some quick healing pills wasn't a problem. One level 2 pill was enough to completely heal all the injuries on Xiaolong's body. "Lin Yi, thank you so much for what you did in the valley." Xiaolong walked over and took the initiative to say to Lin Yi. Lin Yi looked at Xiaolong. He wanted to say that Xiaolong was stupid, but he didn't say it. In fact, Xiaolong came to show goodwill to Lin Yi because he had no other choice. After he went back and met with Right Coiling Tiger, he confirmed that the two cultivator robbers were masters sent by the Hidden House U. One was an Earth-class late-phase peak, and the other was a Sky-class early phase. Of the two, one was dead, and one was injured. Lin Yi's strength was quite amazing. To be continued. Chapter 2457. Xiaolong didn't want to die. His brother might be the last disciple of the Sky Elixir Sect's fifth elder, but he wasn't an elder yet. If he wanted Kong Mingming to help him, he'd have to wait until Kong Mingming finished his apprenticeship. Offending Lin Yi now wasn't a good thing. As a result, Xiaolong expressed his gratitude to Lin Yi so that Lin Yi wouldn't come looking for trouble when he got back. "Does your word count in the valley?" Lin Yi asked faintly. "Valley? What did I say?" As expected, Xiaolong started acting like he didn't know what to do. Being friendly was one thing, but it was a matter of principle. There was no one else in the valley, and it was fine if he said it, but he couldn't say it in front of you Coiling Tiger, lest he embarrass House Kong. Nothing. Lin Yi had guessed that Xiaolong would go back on his word, but he didn't care. Even if Xinyan and Xiaolong were to talk about marriage, Lin Yi wouldn't put him in his eyes. Lin Yi wouldn't be afraid of a second or third time if he dared to mess with House Kong once. Xinyan heard that Xiaolong was going back on his word. Even if it was within her expectations, she still wasn't happy. Xiaolong didn't keep his word. Dinner was eaten in the restaurant of the resort building. There were many small buildings and villas in the resort. People from different majors and classes were basically living separately, so the restaurant didn't seem crowded. A few tables of food were prepared for the students majoring in medicine. After dinner, it was time for the resort's entertainment. The reason why this resort was famous wasn't because of the ski resort, but because there was a deserted village halfway up the mountain. Exploring the deserted village at night was one of the most popular activities of the resort. No one knew how many years this desolate village had existed. There were no signs of human habitation, and the houses in the village were built in an ancient style. However, most of them were made of stone, so they had not been damaged over the years. There was a huge memorial arch at the entrance of the village. After many years of wind and rain, its color had already faded. Under the moonlight, it looked especially eerie and terrifying. Of course, if one were to say that these barren buildings were terrifying, the most attractive part was that there were ghosts in this deserted village. As for whether it was a real ghost or just a gimmick for the resort to attract tourists, no one knew. Some of the tourists said that they really saw something unclean when they were in the exploration vehicle at night, while others said that it was just a scary atmosphere that caused them psychological pressure. But no matter what, this place was already famous. Moreover, during the night visit, visitors had to take the exploration vehicle provided by the hotel. Visitors were strictly forbidden from trespassing into the deserted village, and visitors were not allowed to get off the vehicle and leave during the tour. These might be tricks used by the resort to scare tourists to make money. After all, riding in the expedition car required a fee. If tourists drove or walked to the deserted village to explore, how could the resort make money? This kind of relatively scary entertainment activity. Normally, Boss Bai wouldn't agree so easily. It's just that these past few years, although the rumors about the barren village were scary, Boss Bai wouldn't agree so easily. However, none of the tourists who took the exploration vehicles to explore had any problems. They all returned safely. Therefore, Boss Bai had basically guessed that it was probably a trick for the resort to make money and attract tourists. There were actually no ghosts in the desolate villages. The exploration car was a small 9-seater minibus, and other than the driver and co-driver, there were only 7 people in the car. Lin Yi, Han Jingjing, Xinyan, Xiaolong, Tiger Right, and their 2 underlings were all in the same car. Naturally, Lin Yi didn't want to go with them, but Tiger Right and Xiaolong shamelessly got in the car. Lin Yi couldn't just kick them off, could he? He had no choice but to let them get in the car. But what Lin Yi didn't know was that Xiaolong and Tiger Right getting in the car had caused him quite a bit of trouble. The driver of the exploration car received a call from Days Su before he got in the car. The driver of the exploration car naturally knew what kind of status Days Su had. He was just an employee, and Dae-soo could be said to be half the owner of the resort. How could he not listen to Dae-soo? Dae's bro, is there anything I can do for you? The driver asked carefully, not knowing why Dae-soo was calling him at this time. I have a grudge against the passengers in your car. Dae-soo had already seen Jiaolong and Tiger Right get in the car, so he asked for the driver's phone number and called him.
Ah.
The driver froze after hearing Dae-soo's words. Lower your voice, don't talk. Just listen to me, and do as I say. Dae-soo lowered his voice and ordered the driver. Do you understand what I mean? I understand. The driver didn't dare to go against Dae-soo's words. He quickly calmed himself down and pretended to be nonchalant. Okay, later, when you bring the people in the car to the abandoned village, bring them to a secluded place and find an excuse that the car broke down. Then you get out, come back, and leave them there. Dae-soo said.
That.
The driver froze. This wasn't a good idea, was it? If he left these people in the abandoned village, and in a secluded place at that, how would he explain it to them? As the driver of the exploration car, he had driven between the resort and the abandoned village for many years. He knew very well that there were ghosts in the abandoned village. It wasn't a rumor, but a real ghost. It was just that the ghost had no intention of hurting people, but it was also under the condition that the resort did not disturb the ghost. The route that their car took was carefully chosen to avoid touching the ghost as much as possible. This was also the reason why they had been peaceful all these years. The unclean things that the tourists saw weren't actually hallucinations or psychological effects. In fact, sometimes they could see the existence of a ghost somewhere along the route. Did you hear me talking to you? You don't want your job anymore, do you? Dae-soo saw that the driver wasn't talking and immediately got angry. Just tell me if you want it or not. If you don't want it, I'll find someone else. Okay. The exploration car driver had no choice but to bite the bullet and agree. He had no choice but to agree. The job of the exploration car driver in the resort was to go out every night. It was easy and the salary was high. He didn't want to lose this job. But seeing a group of innocent tourists being left in the abandoned village and possibly scared out of their wits, the driver couldn't help but sigh. No matter what, he couldn't go against Dae-soo. Chapter 2458. After smoking a cigarette, the driver got in the car. He couldn't find a reason for the car to break down, so he refueled the car as usual. The driver didn't refuel the car, leaving only enough gas for a one-way trip. There was basically no gas left once they reached the abandoned village. Abandoned village? Haunted? Linny looked at the brochure in his hand, thinking that this was most likely the resort's way of attracting tourists. Lin-yi couldn't say that he didn't believe in ghosts, but at least Lin-yi hadn't seen one yet. Even when he was exploring the tomb, he didn't see any so-called ghosts. Of course, it wasn't as if these things didn't exist. Lin-yi had read in some ancient texts that when a practitioner trained to an unimaginable level, they'd be able to cultivate a primordial spirit. The primordial spirit could leave the body, and even after the physical body died, it could still survive. However, this was different from ghosts. This was a great power of the practitioner, and there was a fundamental difference from ordinary ghosts. The car started slowly. Lin-yi's car, whether it was intentional or not, became the last car in the entire team. After refueling, it followed the team in front of it down the hill. The mountain road was very rugged. It wasn't a regular mountain road, but the resort's own training path. It wasn't open to the public, so there weren't even any street lights. One could only rely on the car's searchlight to see the road clearly. As for the two sides of the road, there was dense forest. If it was a coward, it would be especially creepy. Lin-yi wasn't afraid of this kind of mountain night at all. When he trained at West Star Mountain, it was scarier than this, and Wulan-Hate Mountain Range wasn't any better, so Lin-yi didn't care. Han Jingjing, on the other hand, didn't seem to care about what was going on around herself. She'd been playing with her tablet the whole time, not even bothering to look out the window. Lin-yi was speechless. This girl was way too carefree. Xinyan, on the other hand, was obviously nervous. She didn't look out the window. Unlike Han Jingjing didn't have time to look. She didn't think that the ghosts outside the window were as fun as refining pills. Xinyan, on the other hand, was a little scared. What ghosts? It's just a rumor, a way for the hotel to make money. Xiaolong couldn't help but speak up after seeing Xinyan's fear. What the hell? We are medical students. How can we be afraid of ghosts? It was just a trick to trick children. I dare to laugh at ghosts in front of their faces in the cemetery, haha. Xinyan frowned at Xiaolong's words. Even if it was the hotel's way of making money, there was no need to say it in the car, was there? There was a chauffeur in the car. How could he be happy when he heard that? As expected, the driver of the exploration car felt sorry for the people in the car, but after hearing Xiaolong's arrogant words, he felt a bit guilty. That trace of guilt in his heart suddenly vanished. Isn't this a scam?
Didn't he not believe it?
I'll let you guys have a look. You can't say that there is no soul, Linny said. You can't say that everything that can't be explained by science isn't science. It can't be explained now, but it might be explained in the future. Didn't you think you saw a ghost when you saw a car a few hundred years ago? What Lin Yi didn't say was that cultivation and pill-making were impossible in the eyes of normal people. It was just that there was a chauffeur in the car, so he didn't make it that clear. Hey, Lin Yi, what do you mean by that? Xiaolong curled his lips. I think you're scared. If you're scared, get off the car now. We're going to the abandoned village. You don't have to go. Lin Yi didn't bother with Xiaolong anymore. He turned his head and ignored him. Xiaolong thought that he was better than Lin Yi in terms of theoretical knowledge. He was overjoyed, thinking that he would regain his heroic image in Xinyan's heart. He was beaten up by the robbers and Su Lingzi, and then bullied by the turtle. Why would he be afraid of ghosts? From Xiaolong's point of view, he'd act bolder and more fearless, and Xinyan would think that he wasn't that useless after all. The car slowly drove into the abandoned village. The huge arch at the entrance shone with a sad light under the moonlight, and Xinyan subconsciously shrunk back. Xiaolong saw this and couldn't help but say, it's just a broken arch. It looks like a soccer goal in the daytime. It's not that big of a deal. But after entering the village, the car Lin Yi was in changed its direction, going in a different direction from the rest of the cars. It went into a small road at the fork in the village. Why isn't it going the same way as the cars in front? Lin Yi noticed the problem and asked, oh, every car has its own itinerary. There'd be no point in exploring if they were all gathered together, and we'd lose the fun of exploring the village. The driver had already thought of an excuse beforehand, and so he explained it when Lin Yi asked, is that so? Lin Yi frowned. Lin Yi didn't see the car in front, but at least the two cars in front were going the same route, one in front and one behind. They didn't split up, so Lin Yi doubted the chauffeur's words. I say, Lin Yi, are you scared? Just say it if you're scared. There's no need to find excuses. Xiaolong heard Lin Yi's words and felt that Lin Yi was getting more and more scared. Lin Yi was an Earth-class mid-phase peak, and he didn't even flinch when facing the robbers and the turtle, but that didn't mean he didn't have a weakness. Fear of ghosts had nothing to do with strength level. Many people would maintain a respectful heart in front of the unknown. If Lin Yi was especially sensitive to things like ghosts, then it was reasonable for him to be afraid. Lin Yi wanted to ask a few more questions, but since Xiaolong had already said so, Lin Yi didn't bother. They were within the range of the resort, so there shouldn't be any big problems. He just felt that there was something wrong with the route the car was taking, so he asked. But then again, even if there was a problem with the route, Lin Yi didn't care. So what if there was a problem? The chauffeur wanted to rob them? That was simply courting death. After the car entered the fork, the road became a lot more bumpy. The car may have been modified, but it was still difficult to walk on this kind of road. Why is this road so hard? Lin Yi was even more confused. If every car had a different route, then Lin Yi could force himself to believe it. But to say that this road was this hard, Lin Yi didn't believe it. To be continued. You're tuning in to the Bromantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.